much.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 18th, 2022 Town Plan and Zoning Commission. As is very apparent, our chairman, Ozzie Parenti, is not attending in person. He's attending remotely because he's under quarantine this evening. But he will be able to participate, hear everything, and speak as well.
Under quarantine for COVID, not for anything else.
I'm not picking them up at all. So
Sorry, I
not coming out
can't
of
make
that.
it. I'll do the best I can to hang in there on the computer.
Okay, thank you, Ozzie.
What does it mean if,
I want
Let's see.
to what he said.
We're hearing him from there. I don't know why we're not hearing him from the.
I would have put the,
Well,
the thing.
once we're on
Yeah, Chris?
record.
Is there any way we could get it? We're hearing him from the speaker, but can we hear him from that so the stenographer can pick him up as well?
No, it's only coming out of that speaker right now.
Okay.
So could we just switch him to here? I mean, this is pretty loud.
That's his mic.
okay.
Would you like me to take your microphone?
Yeah.
And plug it in?
Can you jack it in?
Yes.
I can't really,
No, I'm
can't
just
really
gonna
use the
take it
polygon.
and I'm gonna, people will have to watch. Excuse me. Excuse me.
We can put that up on a stand if you want to mic the speaker.
I could just put it right over here.
Is that
and
enough? And then, I mean,
If I had tape, I
you
could
might have
tape.
enough, I have another table if we could make it reach all the way to that table.
I can.
He has
I can
tape,
make it
Robin.
reach
I'll
all
tape
the
it
way.
down.
Yeah,
Robin,
we need to
Chris
take that down so people
Has-
aren't
Yep.
walking.
Yep.
What you got? 18 years from now.
Oh,
We just need to notice, I know what you need to do.
Alright.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
That's like,
Look
my,
at you go. About as
I
much
just
as I
want people to be
remember.
careful.
Yep.
I don't have to.
When you live it, you don't have to.
Don't worry, I'll take care of it.
All right, thank you. Let's go.
All right, I think we should be good to go.
Okay, we'll have everyone at the table please introduce themselves.
Oh, wait.
Tammy Trantalis, Administrative Assistant.
Why am I not getting you?
Tom Tarenti.
Well, this is,
Paul Kaplan.
No, we can keep going.
Yeah, we
Just-
don't
we
need-
just
Kevin
need to get
Cornell.
this, yeah.
Judy Smith.
Jack Demergent, Zoning Administrator.
First item on our agenda is the review of the minutes from the September 20th, 2022 meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
No comments here, Judy.
Pardon?
No
comments.
I don't have any comments.
No comments.
Okay, if nobody has any comments or edits, we'll entertain a moment to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is old business. Do we have any old business to come before the commission? Nope. And next is new business. Do we have any new business?
I'll be quick and we can talk about 2 weeks from now because I know I have a big agenda. But so it seems obvious in reviewing the notices of violation that we get for various things that there's a mechanism to enforce zoning on blighted properties that has relatively well-defined guidelines. The question I have for you as we move forward is that I often hear in our meetings, well, that'll be an enforcement problem. But I am not aware of how what power you have to enforce certain things. So say, for example, somebody's allowed 12 tables in outdoor dining and they have 15. How can you actually compel them to do something?
It is tough. You would really have to cite the approval at the time. You know, the approval was for X number of tables, and I came out and inspected, and I'm seeing you exceeding that number. So they wouldn't be adhering to their approval from the decision or, you know, whatever plan was put in front of me for approval. You're right, it is tough, you know, especially,
I assume that you'd be finding them
We could, yeah, because
But it's going to be cat and mouse because they'll take the tables away.
Exactly. There's a lot of things that are an enforcement nightmare. You know, there's really no way, unless you have constant surveillance on these locations, it is a tough thing to police.
But you feel that if somebody's exceeding their approval, that you have a mechanism of assessing fines to compel compliance? Or you could use something that's as defined as the blight statute?
The blight for something like that example wouldn't kick in, because like you said, we do have very definitive language for what can be considered a blighted situation. For something like
They're not in compliance.
Right, they're
with
not in
their approval.
compliance, so the approval could be revoked is really more how I would handle that. Is you were approved, you are no longer meeting your criteria that you were approved under, therefore whatever permit you got that approval can be revoked. That would be my method of action, again, easier said than done.
So when we have more time, let's talk about it, because it just seems to me that you seem to have a very straightforward way of dealing with, I'm using just blight as an example where it's very straightforward.
Right.
Whereas if someone, is, and it's not a police action like parking on the street.
Right.
If it's, but if it's, they're, doing things outside they're not supposed to do outside, they're,
But there was a,
I mean, we faced this with blight when it first came out. The statute was not well written, I'll say it, and we fixed it up so that we could move the blight into a lien and then foreclose if necessary. It had teeth. You're telling me that with a fine situation, we can't do that?
We do that on a fine situation. I think what Kevin's saying is the opposite. Is if we don't have any language that says we can levy fines for whatever action we see,
Okay.
then it is a different story. And that's a very good point to bring up, I think, with the town attorney present, because we
Okay.
might have to update our enforcement regulations that qualify for a citation that I can write. So I'm totally with you there, and it's something that I have also seen. A lot of times you'll get away with kind of grouping them together and kind of umbrella-ing everything, for lack of a better term. But on some of these, it's more, were approved for this under this permit. You no longer are meeting the criteria you were approved under, therefore we retain the right to revoke said permit.
you said
You said the word permit. Do we have the right to withdraw an approval?
I believe we do. Yes.
I did not know
On
that.
any special permits, yes.
Okay.
If you are no longer meeting the criteria for that, I do believe we have that
all right, so
in our
let's
regulations.
pick this up, because I think that you should have tools in your toolkit to stop short of shutting somebody's business down per se.
And I am on board with that. I've looked through that and had the same thought myself.
Okey doke.
Yep. Thank you.
And that will bring us to the report of the zoning enforcement officer.
I am also going to keep this very brief so we can get to what I know everybody's here for tonight. Just so everyone is aware, the winery that received a denial, not last meeting, but 4 weeks ago now, is appealing that decision. So that is going to go to the attorneys. If they need anything from us, I will make everyone aware. As of right now, they do not. Vinny did send out late yesterday some information regarding commissioner training that I know we spoke with earlier this year that is going to be required by the state now. Every commissioner has to have 4 hours of land use training, and you have to report that training to the Board of Selectmen, obviously showing them that you have met the criteria. So I will be sending that along shortly. Vin was kind enough to kind of put together a little information email for us that I will distribute to everyone. My last piece, and again, we don't really have to dive into it too far now, I did want to talk about ground-mounted solar panels in the residential zone. Something that is very new. We see solar panels on roofs all the time, but I've had a couple questions come up and somebody essentially asking, what permits do I need to fill out for this? And we don't really have any language on it right now, so how we deal with those is kind of up in the air. There's certainly structures that we have to regulate. How do we want to regulate them? What would be reasonable? That's kind of something that, in the near future I would like to discuss, just to have something there when I do get these questions.
Are you talking about residential?
Residential properties,
not
correct.
commercial,
Not
so the
commercial, no.
farms.
I've had a few people saying, I just want, I don't really use my backyard for anything. I have a good amount of open space. I would like to install solar panels. And the way, my mind goes to is it's another structure. I would treat it like any accessory building. So their threshold before having to come to us is still 300 square feet, which for a solar array is pretty small. So how do we want to police that? Is that something we want to allow, not allow? That, again, just kind of up in the air because we don't really have any language on it at the moment. So that is, I think, all I have really for right now, and then the rest we can kind of discuss at a later date.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Yep.
We're now at the public hearing portion of our meeting. I'll ask Commissioner Kaplan to read the notice, please.
The short notice that we just got?
Yeah, there are two notices.
There
There are two
public
notices
hearings.
because they were separately noticed. This one is for, obviously, the cannabis retailer.
Yeah. Notice is hereby given that on, Notice is hereby given that on Tuesday, October 18th at 7 p.m. at the Orange Town Hall, 617 Orange Center Road, at the Orange Town Plan Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing on the following application for a special permit and use and site plan application submitted by Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing LLC for the property known as 175 Boston Post Road, to open a cannabis establishment with a drive-through service window and an adaptive reuse of a previously developed site. A copy of this notice has been filed with the Orange Town Clerk. Additional information is on file with the Orange Zoning Department, dated Orange, Connecticut, this 5th day of October 2022. Right, and there's another one kicking around, but I don't have that one.
Yeah, we can wait on that. I
Okay.
have copies here.
All
for
right,
you.
Okay. Oh, okay, thanks, man.
Margie.
All right, we'll have the applicant come to the podium for their special use permit and site plan application.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I hope you feel better quickly. Good evening, Madam Vice Chair and members of the Town Plan and Zoning Commission. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky. I represent Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing and Green Thumb Industries in this application for special permit and site plan approval. We were with you over the, we're in fall, over the summer, with the text amendment to the Orange zoning regulations. This commission adopted the regulation that gives rise to the applications that are being filed this evening, or being heard this evening. I prepared a letter that's dated October 4th. I submitted it in time for that meeting, and I have fresh copies of it with me this evening, which I'll pass to Jack
I'll take them. Thank you.
for distribution. And the nature of the letter is to discuss the special permit criteria in the Orange zoning regulations, which govern your evaluation of the application before you. There are a set of standards in the cannabis regulation itself. Those standards are set forth at section 383-143 of your regulations. And at the time of the application, and slightly revised on my letter of October 4th, is an analysis of those standards and a demonstration of the compliance with those standards in this application. And Anne Marie Zamba, who is the Municipal Compliance Officer at Green Thumb Industries, and from whom the Commission has heard previously, is here this evening, and she's going to talk about the standards under the cannabis regulation. The central focus of my letter are the standards under Section 383-136 of your regulations, which are the standards, the general standards, if you will, governing special permits and special uses. And I walked through those standards also with an analysis of information pertaining to the proposed facility that has been set forth in the application materials and that is otherwise demonstrated in the array of reporting and plans that have been provided to the Commission. So in addition to Anne Marie, Also here is Rich D'Andrea from Collier's Engineering and Design. He's a professional engineer, the traffic engineer, and he has previously provided information to the commission, and there is a supplemental report from Mr. D'Andrea, and you will hear his testimony. On the phone is Tim Gorman, who is the Director of Security for Green Thumb Industries. He presented to the commission at the time of the text amendment, but he's also here to discuss any questions that the commission may have. As you know, in the package of materials that were submitted for this special permit is a very comprehensive security plan that governs operations at these facilities, and that plan has been reviewed and approved by the chief of police. So if you have any questions pertaining to that, he is here for that reason. Because there is interest from the public, I would like to come back at the end of public testimony to present some rebuttal as may be necessary or desirable. But I want to open this hearing, which I probably have already done, by simply recapping the nature of a special permit. A special permit is a permitted use. It is a use permitted in the zoning district that is outlined in the zoning regulations, and it is subject to an individualized assessment to evaluate the elements of its use in the location in which it is proposed. That is essentially what the standards under the cannabis regulation and under the general special permit regulation direct themselves to. And that's what all of our reporting is directed to. So with that, I'd like to turn the podium over to Anne Marie, after whom Rich will speak, and we'll see what questions you have as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Be careful with the shapes.
I'm going to just take a moment to adjust. These are printed copies, should anybody want one? Thanks, I don't want to mess with your... Hey, Jack, do I have to do something here?
I think Chris is.
Doing the thing.
It's warming up.
It's trying.
I see it.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. Good evening, good evening, Orange Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Anne Marie Zamba, Director of Municipal Compliance for Green Thumb Industries. Tonight, we will walk through the special use criteria and site plan features for the proposed hybrid retail cannabis establishment. Before I jump into the presentation, I would like to take a moment to address a letter and email of protest issued by the Parks family. As you know, we currently operate a medical dispensary at 318 New Haven Avenue in Milford. When I stood before you during the text amendment hearing, I acknowledged that our current location is space constrained, that it is difficult to navigate for patients, and does not have a dedicated parking lot. This is the reason we are so excited about 175 Boston Post Road, a one-level, single-tenant, freestanding structure with dedicated parking. I had also noted that Green Thumb, the parent company to Southern CT Wellness and Healing, came into the Connecticut market by way of acquisition in 2019. Blue Point Branford and Blue Point Westport, currently operating medical facilities, were acquired in 2019. Southern CT Wellness and Healing was acquired by Green Thumb on December 18th, 2020. This is highly pertinent information, as Dr. Parks details his experience with the former operators of Southern CT Wellness and Healing. I understand Dr. Parks had a negative experience with those operators and would ask that that experience not be held against Green Thumb this evening. Additionally, as a mom to school-aged children myself, I sympathize with Ms. Parks and her reservations. However, I implore this commission to acknowledge that the Connecticut legislature has legalized marijuana in the state. The use is to be considered as that of any other retail use. Retail uses fit appropriately in commercial zoning districts, such as C1, where we are proposing to move. The Parks brought their home in September of 2016. At that time, as is still the case now, their property directly abutted a commercial zoning district where any retail use could have feasibly sited. Lindy Street, on the way to Founders Way, has 2 no outlet signs posted. Founders Way is also marked as a dead end. Bike riding and lemonade stands for this 13-home community remain on the table. Pulling out of the exit of 175 Boston Post Road, the natural flow is to turn left and go back towards Route 1. So long as permissible, we can install a no right turn sign at the exit of the proposed location. Lastly, our operation is not open at 6:40 a.m. when the bus arrives for pickup. I will note there is a direct line of sight to VIP, which has been in town for 20 years. This is a legitimate industry. It will provide productive employment certification programs via the University of New Haven, and is not a use to shy away from simply because it's new. Here, we see our standalone, fully enclosed, permanent building structure. As a former bank, this location is perfect for an adaptive reuse, as it is already in harmony with the characteristics of the C1 zoning district and the neighboring properties. This application is supported by a context map, which exemplifies a 1,000-foot radial distance circle. No school or place of worship is located within 1,000 feet of the proposed cannabis establishment. This measurement is shown as the nearest point on the property line of the proposed retailer to the nearest point of the property line of the protected uses. The town of Orange also does not have another cannabis establishment located within town limits. Therefore, the 5,000-foot separation distance requirement has been met. This slide lays out many of the features we would incorporate into a hybrid retailer design and offer on site. Drive-through dispensing and curbside dispensing, as authorized by Senate Bill 1201, would be conducted on site. Both methods of dispensing require orders to be placed online in advance, allowing us to stagger orders by the hour to control volume, just like a restaurant. These methods of dispensing provide service in a safe and effective manner to all patients and customers, regardless of disability and range of modality. Chief Gagne has also stated his preference for drive-through dispensing. By way of reminder, there will only be 1 drive-through lane. Removal of the 2 other drive-through lanes that serve the former bank are elements of the site improvements. Oh, excuse me. The photos in the middle of the slide are examples of what installed window film would look like. Window film is necessary as no cannabis products may be visible from the exterior of the facility, pursuant to both the township's ordinance and the Department of Consumer Protection regulations. The film provides a clean appearance and allows natural light to come through while obscuring visibility to the general public outside the facility. This slide also provides proposed signage for this location. The proposal includes utilization of the existing pylon sign on the property and utilization of the existing exterior wall sign. You may be confused as to why there are 3 proposed logos. You may recall that Green Thumb currently operates 77 dispensaries in 15 states. Our brand name of Rise is considered a form of advertising because we are such a highly regulated industry. The DCP recently granted our request to operate as Rise, but only on the facilities that we are converting to a hybrid status. At the time this application was made in August, we did not have firm direction from the DCP, and therefore 3 mock-ups were provided. The facility will be equipped with a carbon filtration system for odor management. The facility does not anticipate operations to produce any detectable odors because no manufacturing or cultivation of cannabis will occur on site. All products arrive at the dispensary in sealed, child-resistant, tamper-evident packaging and are only opened by the consumer once the consumer has left the property. A copy of the dispensary facility license is exhibited on this slide. This license remains prominently hung in our entrance vestibule at all times. Should the special use permit be approved, application will be made to the Connecticut DCP to relocate the dispensary license from Milford to Orange. Along with this relocation request, we will be applying to the DCP to convert the medical license into a hybrid retailer license. We are not subject to the lottery process. We have our application reviewed, we pay a fee, and we can operate at that point in time. We also see here the Connecticut General Statute, Section 30-91, permits the sale of alcoholic liquor Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The facility's current hours of operation are within the permitted sale hours of alcoholic liquor. The current hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Sundays 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Here we have the site plan for 175 Boston Post Road. The largest change or improvement is the removal of the existing drive-through canopy. By reducing the number of drive-through lanes from 3 to 1, the site would see an increase in available parking spots to a total of 35 spaces. You can see that no outside storage is proposed here. Outside storage is not permitted by the Department of Consumer Protection, and all cannabis products will be stored in the existing bank vault. On-site loading and garbage service will occur at the back of the building, shielded from abutting neighbors by landscaping, as the former TD Bank did as well. The site is accessed via a driveway connection to Boston Post Road and 2 driveway connections to Lindy Street. The Boston Post Road driveway accommodates left and right turn entering movements, while exiting movements are limited to right turns only. The southerly driveway to Lindy Street accommodates all movements, and the northern drive permits exiting movements only. It is anticipated that employees and customers will arrive and leave via personal vehicles. There are no significant pedestrian accommodations along Boston Post Road in the vicinity of the site. This section of Post Road is serviced by the CT Transit New Haven Metro Area Route 261 bus as well. Here, we have the interior layout of the facility with the security plan overlaid on top of the floor plan. I've told you previously that safety and security is at the heart of what we do. Anywhere you see a blue circle, a camera will be installed. All green markers are indications of hold-up alarms, panic buttons, anything relating to an alarm system that's installed for employee and customer safety.
Excuse me, is there going to be a security person on site during the period that the facility is open?
Yes.
What time does the facility close?
Yeah, we have to wait. Yeah, sorry. The public will get their opportunity, but right now we're going to have the presentation.
Sure. All red markers indicate that a door is access controlled, meaning you must have the correct key fob and access code to gain entry. Cannabis-specific identification software that both validates the government ID and confirms age is deployed in our facilities as well. These technological advancements, coupled with ongoing employee training, demonstrate that the proposed cannabis establishment will be managed in a manner to protect against nuisance conditions. The town of Orange includes the following within the term nuisance: disturbances of the peace, open public consumption of cannabis, pedestrian or vehicular queuing that results in obstruction of sidewalks or public rights-of-way, littering, loitering, illegal parking, loud or sustained noises, disturbing lighting, or citations for violations of state or local traffic laws and regulations. The proposed location provides adequate parking, sidewalks, and space to queue vehicles for the anticipated consumer demand. Public consumption of cannabis on premises is strictly prohibited and will be readily enforced by our team. Disturbing the peace, littering, loitering, illegal parking, and loud or sustained noises will not be tolerated. There is no proposed change.
Excuse me for 1 second, okay?
Yes.
I don't know exactly when to, I don't want to interrupt too much, but how, when you say it's going to be strictly enforced, can you just step me through at some point in your presentation as to how that's going to work?
Sure. Not our first rodeo. We are prepared and our team is trained to deal with folks who might be feeling spirited that day, for example. We are trained to de-escalate someone. We also know when to call for appropriate backup or reinforcements. We try not have it ever get to that stage, but should somebody be outside, they're loitering, our security personnel would go and address them. I was at a hearing in Pennsylvania last week. Somebody in the audience acknowledged, right? So the cameras are being monitored constantly from the inside. He had parked crooked near a handicap spot, and he was asked to move. I mean, we will not shy from moving someone or deterring behavior that should not be on site. Does that answer?
Yeah,
Okay.
Would you have the security guy, or would you please address that would be happening during your hours of operation? What happens, overnight? You have a big parking lot behind the store that's
Sure.
relatively a quiet area. It's monitored by your cameras.
Correct.
But I was just wondering if you could give some testimony on what your program is when you're not open.
Sure. So we have regional security who can be deployed in the instance of something looking suspicious on cameras. We also have our GMs, so our general managers are trained for this type of behavior. They will be provided, the local municipal department, so police, fire, will be provided with that GM's number. They would be notified from our remote monitoring center that they need to be deployed. They need to go and deter some behavior. If the GM wasn't comfortable, we would call that regional security person to come and support those efforts. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
So I'm sorry if I just want to make sure I understand. When the facility is not open for business, you have 24-hour monitoring services who are looking for suspicious behavior that could be a nuisance in violation of these regulations. They will first contact the general manager who is assigned to that store, who will then make a determination on how to address the situation.
Sure. What I can tell you is across 77 dispensaries, we don't often face the scenario that you're presenting. We have cameras, very candidly, more than a bank, and that is often a deterrent enough to prevent people from loitering in a back parking lot. Hitchcock Plaza is directly next to it. They could loiter there as well. Yes, a judgment call would be made regarding what the scenario was, the light of day, et cetera, comfortability of the GM, and yes, we would respond accordingly.
Thank you.
All right, so to follow up on that, there's no security personnel there overnight or after hours?
No, ma'am, it's not needed.
And the 24/7 remote monitoring, who does that?
Sure. So we have an entire security team. They are headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. Director of security is Jose Navarez, and he actually will very frequently get on 8 a.m. calls and say he's super pooped. He was woken up with a call in the evening and had to, act accordingly. It's far and few between. Here we have our police department review and approval. This lays out the communications between Green Thumb and Chief Gagne. As is the applicant's burden, we submitted a security plan to Chief Gagne to demonstrate that there will be limited burden to town public safety officials due to our operating in town. The plan includes all security measures for the site as required by the DCP, our standard operating procedures for the transportation and receiving of products, and all measures to protect the premises from criminal activity. Tim Gorman, Vice President of Retail Security and Compliance for Green Thumb, met with the Chief, Assistant Chief Martins, Lieutenant Kosh, and Lieutenant LaPlante on July 12th. This meeting took place on site at 175 Boston Post Road. Both the interior and exterior of the facility were toured, and a detailed explanation of the proposed cannabis operation and associated security measures and protocols were provided. The chief provided verbal acknowledgement that Green Thumb, as the proposed operator, the location, and the security plan met with the town of Orange's PD's approval. I had the opportunity to present before the chief and Assistant Chief Martins at the Orange Traffic Authority meeting on September 12th. At this meeting, we received unanimous approval for our project. The members of the Traffic Authority questioned the chief as to whether he had any reservations for the project, and he stated that he had met with our team and had no concerns over the proposed operation. He went on to detail for the commission, or authority, how highly regulated the industry is and emphasized the stringent security requirements in place. Thereafter, on September 15th, the chief provided email correspondence providing for his approval of the security plan as written. That was a lot. I thank you for sticking with me.
In Milford, did you operate in Milford at all?
We operated from
20,
when we
right?
took possession in late 2020, yeah.
Did you have all of the security procedures that you just detailed over the last few minutes in place in Milford?
They're in place in Milford right now, yes. The operator that we assumed from, I can't speak to those
No,
operations.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to ask you, but I am going to ask you from the time that you took over, what kind of security issues arose during that time period? Just give us a flavor for what we're into.
We've not had one issue. There was one singular issue. There was a robbery. It was a unique circumstance. It happened on November 18th, 2018. The cash was held upstairs.
Did you say 18?
Yes,
That was before you took over?
correct.
Okay, go ahead, keep going.
Cash was held upstairs. People went through drywall. They knew exactly where it was. Because of our cameras, they were able to apprehend the suspects and take them in. I can't speak to the cash. I'm not sure if it was ever.
No, that's okay, but and if I understand the setup over there, you had stores to the left and to the right?
Yes, so there's, I believe, 4 other tenants. It's tight. It's, very constrained. Thank you.
With regard to the hours of operation, I know with the sale of alcohol, that's regulated by the state Department of Consumer Protection. When they created this new law, did they attach hours for the cannabis sale?
The commissioner has it correct.
Okay, so it cannot exceed what is allowed, what they allowed for the alcohol sales.
Correct, and I
Okay.
believe that is why Town Attorney Marino drafted it to reflect the liquor statute hours.
And you're proposing less than,
Correct.
but would you have the ability to add to down the road?
I don't necessarily know if we would need to, so we designate when we open as adult use in a hybrid environment, we designate the first hour of the day for medical patients, and then we utilize our pre-orders and our reservation system to handle that additional adult use volume during the day.
Jack, if we issue an approval for what they've presented, are they not constrained by that? In other words, can they unilaterally increase their hours of operation?
No.
Without coming back?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so without coming back. But it is worth to note that in the regulation that we adopted, I believe what we're looking at tonight is more restrictive than what is in there.
Yeah.
But I think this is what we are approving tonight. This is what would be presented if they were to try to reach the limits of what they are allowed to in that regulation amendment. I believe they would have to come back. I would rather ask Attorney Marino, who I think is going to show up tonight. I was told he was, obviously not here yet, but it's a question I'd rather ask him for certainty.
At this time, I would like to turn it over to Rich DeAndrea, our traffic expert.
Good evening, Rich DeAndrea, Colliers Engineering and Design. I was last in front of your commission on, I think it was September 6th meeting. And at that time, we had prepared preliminary traffic review for your consideration. And since then, we've gone through, based on some of the discussion at that meeting, and provided a supplementary report dated October 4th that provides some more detailed traffic analysis of the existing and future operating conditions in the vicinity of the proposed project. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through a summary of what was in that report, and then you can ask any questions as we go. To do that that more detailed analysis, our first step was to actually collect some existing traffic volume data. We focused our data collection on the intersection of Boston Post Road at Lindy Street. And that information was collected on Thursday, September 29th, during the 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. time period, and then on Saturday, October 1st, between 11 and 2. We also were able to obtain some other volume data from recent studies that were done in this general vicinity from the 329 Smith Farm Road project and the 235 Boston Post Road project, which had data from 2022 and 2020. So we have a pretty good handle on that the volumes that we collected ourselves are very fairly representative of what's actually happening out there. We identified that the peak hours to be during the weekday PM to be between 4:45 and 5:45, so pretty consistent with your commuter time period. And on Saturday, the peak hour was between 12:45 and 1:45 is what we identified. The one thing I think previously we talked about the trip generation for the facility during the AM time period. We didn't specifically analyze this as part of this updated or supplemental study, mainly because the volume data that we have shows that the volumes along Route 1 on Boston Post Road are 40 to 50% lower than the PM peak hour on a weekday. And then our traffic generation is also 40 to 50% lower. So all told, the impacts during the AM peak hours should be significantly less from this project. So we think that PM and Saturday time periods are kind of the more critical time periods. And that's sort of typical of retail development. So we then took the existing traffic volumes and projected them to a future design year of 2023 when we anticipate the project to open. We grew the existing traffic volumes by 3% per year just to account for general growth in the area. We also added in additional traffic from those other two developments that I previously mentioned, the 329 Smith Farm Road and the 235 Boston Post Road, just to make sure that we have kind of a good capture of what's going to be there within the near future. And so altogether, we result in what we call the no-build traffic volumes. We then looked at taking the trip generation numbers, which we went into detail at the September 6th meeting, but I can talk about more if we need to. But those were based off of the ITE trip generation manual estimates. And we took those and we came up with some specific arrival and departure distributions for the area. Previously, we had thought maybe it was going to be a 50-50 split. Based on some of the more detailed data we were able to collect, we think it's going to be more 60% coming from the south and east, and 40% from the north and west. And that's identified in our study. So we applied the site-generated traffic volumes to the roadway network, added them to the no-build volumes to get our full build with the project traffic volumes at Lindy Street intersection. We then ran capacity analysis for that intersection. That analysis was done with the Synchro version 11 analysis software. It's an industry standard software that we use for capacity analysis, utilizing the highway capacity manual method. And there's a table in our study It was table number 3 that summarized that analysis. But basically, when you look at those, we analyzed the existing no-build and build conditions. And when you look at the Lindy Street intersection, showing that it currently operates at a level of service C for vehicles exiting Lindy Street. That level of service would be maintained under both the no-build and the build condition with our traffic volumes. We also analyzed the site access location where there's no traffic today, but just to see what that would operate at, and we're showing level service B. So that's the overall gist of the study. We also looked at a couple other things just for comparison purposes. I know previously we talked about the comparison to the former bank use and what that really meant. So we took it one step further and actually looked at, okay, what are other permitted uses that potentially could go on this site? And the most intensive traffic uses that we identified were a gas station and a fast food restaurant. When you look at those comparisons, if those were an application that were on this site, they're somewhat comparable and actually somewhat higher than what we would generate. So that's just another comparison that we provided in this study. The other thing that was, I think, was actually a comment from your commission from the September 6th meeting was what might happen at the Smith Farm Road, Indian River Road intersection, or the Racebrook Road intersection. We didn't do specific data collection ourselves, but we did have some data from those prior studies that we were able to take a look at, and we did project to those intersections what our traffic would be. And when you look at those, I'm just going to give you the PM peak hour for comparison purposes. When you look at those intersections at the Smith Farm Road, Indian River Road intersection, we're adding 47 new trips in the PM peak hour. When you look at the total volume, that's a 1.9% increase. And at Racebrook Road, the PM peak hour, where you have 30 new trips, that intersection accommodates approximately 3,500 trips, which is less than a 1% increase. So when you talk about those percentage increases, we don't really see those as significant increases. The other thing to note is that the Institute of Transportation Engineers actually provides guidance on whether or not you need to analyze specific off-site intersections. And typically what the guidance says is that if it's under 100 new trips to an intersection, it's not expected to have a significant impact on that intersection. So we don't think that we have a significant impact there that would require further analysis.
Have you analyzed other dispensaries for purpose of traffic testimony?
We have in New York, yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
On page 4 of your report, I think it's 4th paragraph, as with any new facility, as a result of the novelty of a new location and availability of commercial sale for adult use, it should be noted that initial traffic generation of the facility may be somewhat higher than estimate by ITE. This has been experienced by other similar type facilities and typically lasts for 1 to 2 months after the initial opening. Can you sort of speak to trip generation given that?
I can't speak to specific numbers, but I do know that it's been experienced where, because it's new, because you're allowing adult use and sales there, that it may attract some more people. We've seen that at other locations. I'm sure that we could provide other data if we needed to, but that is just, it's typical of almost any new facility. I can think of an example recently where a project that we were working on was a Trader Joe's supermarket, and similar situation occurred. We planned for it, and we provided traffic maintenance during that time period for a week or two, and then it normalizes. So it's a typical situation of a new or novel location, but again, it does normalize over a short period of time.
In this case, it would be an initial rush. Excuse me, did you also do the determination of what would be an appropriate number of parking spaces for the facility?
We did talk about that previously, and
It just seems that for a small building, it seems that they have 20 employees
35 spots.
and 35 spots. It just seems that, I don't know why they have that many people carrying stuff, but.
yeah, I mean, I think as far as parking goes, and it's kind of the same on a generation standpoint, I think the total number of spaces is 35 spaces on the site, right? We did look at this based on ITE, that was in our initial letter. ITE indicates that you need about 30 spaces, so we think we have enough parking. The other thing to note is we have the drive-through here. The ITE doesn't account for that on the parking end of things, and the use of the drive-through really should reduce the amount of parking that we really need. And the other thing is the fact that they have the ability to dictate time periods when certain people come to pick up their online orders, which is most of a majority of their orders are pre-orders online. So that also can be used to manage the parking on the site.
Any other questions at this time from the commission? Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Rich,
Oh,
Rich, do you have any sense for what the breakdown is of drive-through versus walk-in versus curbside?
I don't know.
Somebody does.
Yep.
Yeah, probably better for her to answer.
Percentage of drive-through, pre-order, okay. So curbside and drive-through dispensing represent 85% of our business. That's a massive amount of pre-orders online. Those existing customers through a drive-through lane will be all of 5 minutes. Therefore, the 35 parking spaces is entirely sufficient. This is calculated at retail parking, so we would technically only require 19 spaces here. The other 15% being walk-ins, we would accommodate for those. We have enough spaces for those folks to come in the front of the building, as well as by removing the drive-through canopy, we're picking up, I believe, 9 additional spaces in the back. There was a concern over employees. So we do staff heavily when we launch adult use. We are seasoned at this. We just did this in New Jersey where we converted 2 of our 3 facilities to a hybrid status. And to control for that and parking and initial volume, what we do is we allow our employees to expense rideshare, Uber, Lyft, so that while we have an initial 30-day volume, their cars are not taking up spaces. At that point, we can then determine after 30 days, we can assess labor costs. What is real volume looking like here? What is peak hours? And we can staff in 4 6-hour shifts accordingly. Moreover, if this were to be approved, we would seek to do a short-term parking lease exactly for this, for additional spaces for employees. I also want to note that
You mean at a different facility, at 185 or wherever it is that you...
we've done this before. We go to neighboring tenants and we say, if you have additional parking or backlot or what have you, I don't want to get stuck in the weeds here, but we've done it before. And it's been where we had a unique parcel that had 15 spaces on it. So a short-term parking lease was very, very needed.
Right.
I will also say that the Public Act 21-1 authorizes, in the first 30 days, a municipality to charge a retailer $50,000 for traffic control costs, public safety items. That is not something that we oppose. We understand and want to work cooperatively with the municipality to have this be a favorable introduction to your town.
How many employees do you anticipate on a typical basis at the facility?
Sure. I would say 18 once volume has become normal. And again, not in 8-hour shifts, right? These are in varying shifts. We have part-time, we have full-time folks.
So Did I ask the question correctly? In other words, at any one time, in other words, not how many people do you employ, but any one time it's going to be about 18?
In peak hours, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, absolutely. I will also, my last point, we're going to miss adult use rollout in Connecticut. So the volume that you all are anticipating will not be here. There's a very much a first mover advantage into new states, and the governor has put a deadline of 12/1. So we're going to miss that largely. We would never be able to build in time. We're on a 12-week construction build. So I believe that that should be factored into your concerns over traffic. Thank you.
And do you schedule the pickup for the drive-through? Or would we be able to see a potential queuing diagram?
So it's very much based on volume. So as we're getting orders and we see this coming through, we have dedicated medical and adult use menus online. That is for patient preservation, so that patients have access to their medicine regardless. While we're seeing volume, right, we have a team. We have a large team that sits on the back end of these, POS, point of sale items, and they monitor for this, and they stagger so that the business is successful. Sometimes we have to say no to folks. It will all depend upon, what the surrounding municipalities and what the volume looks like here.
But it sounded like, just to embellish on that, that you stagger the times on a, not only coming in, but also at the drive-through?
Correct. We can stagger altogether, because they'll have to denote at placing their order online, whether it's curbside drive-through or an in-store pickup.
Not to beat this drive-through queuing to death, but
Let's do it.
how much of a queue do you realistically anticipate?
Sure. So
Because it looks like it doesn't take much of a queue to have the site all screwed up.
About 6.
Right.
So 6 can fit comfortably within, not up there. Say it were 6.
No, I know they can fit. How many would you reasonably anticipate, though?
So we're not anticipating the volume that we had in New Jersey. What I can say is with 85% pre-orders, we're going to anticipate significant business, and we will dedicate significant labor to preparing those orders and having the drive-through move as quickly and efficiently as possible. It's hard to project the future. I apologize, Commissioner. Marjorie?
Marjorie Shansky for the record. I simply wanted to respond to the hours of operation question. The hours that have been requested, if the commission were to approve the permit and adopt those hours, those are the hours. That we are bound by the special permit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, if the applicant is done with the presentation, we would ask the public who would like to speak to please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
You'll have to forgive me, I have back surgery pending. Would have preferred a chair. My name is Pat Panza. I reside at 357 Lindy Street, Orange, Connecticut. I'm down at the dead end. All I can say is, wow, what a presentation, wow. I got to tell you how many times I've been on planning and zoning and bringing things in like this and all the promises that came in. And it said, we monitor this, we do that, back and forth. The problem with that, as our planner has explained, difficult sometimes to implement and enforce. So yeah, you can make all the promises in the world saying, we got this under control, we got monitors, this, that, and the other thing. But I'm gonna show you all the statistics. I got a ton of it here. Doesn't matter. 40% of the people in the 167 different facilities say it's not a business that should be here. Great, state of Connecticut said, it's legalized. And what does that mean? You have to comply. No, you don't. They say it's a good fit. It's a standalone building. It's a bank. It's on the corner. It's commercial. I'd like to bring a few things, and I'll deliver it further in my testimony on here, but I just wanted to clear some things up. There are 14 residents, not 13. that are affected. And the thing is that when you talk about your security and how you handle the building, you're not talking about the security, how you handle the residents, nor do you have to. You say as far as 24 hours that you have what is your reactionary time? I can tell you from other things that we manage, the reactionary time is a lot longer than you're saying here. And the protection to the residents, the community, is not protected. So what I'm going to do is I'll leave that on the table and I'll get back to that towards the end. I have over here on the easel, basically on the drawings that were submitted, this was not submitted. This is actually the residents in the area. This is dead ends on both ends. And I'm happy to hear that they said, well, we'll have not a right turn only coming out of Lindy Street, a left turn only to go to Boston Post Road. Right turn only will take us down to areas of Founder's Way and also down at Lindy Street. That's what we would not desire, okay? So I'll leave that at the table. So now I'll go into my presentation. We have here, I'll present to this. These are the actual maps. Taking that to you. Thank you. We have papers after papers saying this is not a good fit, saying, you know, it'll generate income. Well, listen, decisions were made many years ago when Stu Leonard's decided that they wanted to make an attempt to bring in a facility. And traffic control said it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't the right fit. Traffic was going to be a problem. We got FedEx over there now. They're on the road all the time. Did anybody come back and say, is there a problem with traffic at that point? Look it, we can stand here and we can debate this all day long. We already know what the story is and we already know where the money's coming from. So I'm going to make it brief because standing up here is more of a problem than anything else. The state of Connecticut says on SB, I think it's 1201, says that you have to have a referendum of 10% of the population. I'd like to know, did that happen? And if it did happen, when? Was it buried in the budget? I'd like to know where it is. Where did they get the 10% to say that this is something that would be, Town of Orange would be interested in? I didn't see it. Now, if you're saying that nobody showed up, and you know what? I'm on fault for that too. And I'm on the CBA, and I didn't even know about it, okay? There's a common courtesy as far as I'm concerned, and do you think I'm annoyed by it? Maybe. If the same shoe was on the other foot, I would have offered that courtesy. We are servants to the residents. That's what we're here for. You're all volunteers. I'm a volunteer. We give up our time and our energy, but we do it for a purpose of the residents, the community. Doesn't matter. You could say whatever. Traffic control could say whatever. This young lady out of New Jersey or New York, she could say whatever. They got controls. But at the end of the day, it's left in the hands of planning and zoning to enforce if there's a problem. And we already know that there are issues here that are very difficult to enforce. Yeah, you can find them back and forth, but it takes time and it takes money. What I'm going to say from here, and I'll go to my notes. This proposal that you have with a site plan approval is one of the minimalist proposals I've seen. And I've brought plenty of them through for different clients through different towns and cities. Usually on these proposals, they have, photometric evaluations. You have wetlands over there. I see no accommodations to protect, or if they're saying that it's only, it's existing, they still have to provide. If they're ripping anything, before they put a shovel in the ground, they got to comply, number one. Number two, On this facility, I'm happy to hear, like I said before, they said, we're going to do, they claimed it as a right-hand turn. I'm saying it's a left-hand turn. If you're coming out of the drive-through, left-hand turn takes you to Boston Post Road. Right-hand turns will come down to my house for coffee. So, with that being said, we have probably one of the top litigators in the state of Connecticut, Attorney Shansky. And I'll tell you this, that we all know, and she's probably better known, in 2008, she beat Stu Leonard's in an inland wetland meeting to turn around that they had to reapply, and at that point, Stu Leonard's decided they're no longer coming. That was a 14-year journey. 14 years. And here we got something that turns around and says, this is a great fit. We're gonna sum it up tonight. I'm saying to you is this. There's a moral compass that we all have. And when I came to this, when I came out of West Haven, if you look through all my minutes, they're all the same. With the interest not only in the city of West Haven, town of Orange, but also with the community. I'm going to bring you to back when I was in college 100 years ago. I did the thesis. And let me find it. I studied and I aspired to being a planner back then. My father had a different direction for me in the construction business. So I did my thesis on it was from 1925. Imagine that, back as far as that, 1925. They were thinking about this. So the American Institute of Architecture turned around and says, we're going to look at 10 years of zoning. And when they looked at the 10 years of zoning, they said, and they didn't call it residential, they called it a community. That's what they called it. It was a community. They said, you know what? We don't care that you own that property. That property's worth more than you. So what they said was this. We will focus on the parcel, not on the community. Wow, that was an interesting statement. They're agonizing over this 1925, and we're still agonizing over it. How we're going to handle it. What's the hours of operation? How are they going to handle the security at the end of the day? Well, I got to tell you, this is not a liquor store. Get that out of your head. This is not a liquor store. The hours of operation, what they have here, is not a liquor store. It may be for a liquor store, but they're in a commercial area. This abuts residential. The same problem you had with the winery is the same problem we have with the dispensary. The people turned around and said, excessive noise, this, you're going to have it. I don't care what they tell you, it's going to happen. So now it falls onto our planner. It falls onto, he has to now get a hold of Vinny. Vinny turns around and has to implement a cease and desist, and it's money. And the police chief, oh my God, he says that at the end of the day, this is not going to be a problem. Well, let me enlighten you. I had a meeting with, we have police that rent some of our buildings down over there, and I went in there and I said, look, you know, with this cannabis stuff, what do you think about it? He says, it's too new. Too new. We don't know how we're going to handle it. I said, you're not getting information from, from the top? He says, they don't know. The problem is, if they come over there, like for example, a DWI, you can go there, you can smell alcohol, you know he's driving under the influence. You got to understand, with smoking weed, pot, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, that smell stays in the car. And it'll say, I didn't smoke it now. That was yesterday. And it's a misdemeanor. Okay? How do you police it? You guys all turned around and looked at it and said, hey, you can't smoke on Town of Orange sidewalks. You can't smoke over in this facility. Who's going to police it? They put about a half a dozen joints in their pocket. They walk around the corner. They light the joint. What are you going to do? You going to walk around and follow them? It's not going to happen. I understand we're the 21st century. I get it. But I want to leave this in your mind as well. If they legalize prostitution, we would have brothels in Orange and the rest of these towns, if the state of Connecticut said it was okay. I wonder about that. Where does the line end? So we all know where this is going. We already know where the decisions are. I was told right to my face that this is a done deal. Really? Done deal. Interesting. I'm on the ZBA. There is no done deal, period. You have to have a moral compass. Everything that I do, I look at and have a moral compass. Is it the best fit for the town of Orange, community? And also, is it for the residents? Is it for the residents? We are still here. Our attorney says it's not a problem, you know. It's a text. We could turn around and, you know, it's not specific, meaning that we may have more restrictions here, less restrictions here. Really? Well, I'll tell you, I don't see the restrictions. I see the hours of operation. That's crazy. You got 17 kids on this street. Nobody did an impact study. You know what I was told? You don't need to. Really? Bus stop right across. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Really. 17 kids, 5 grandchildren. These kids play hockey in the street over there. Think about it. If this facility and all these facilities and all these towns and cities are saying, hey, we don't want it. Same thing in Milford. They're coming here because they're getting kicked out because of the problem they generated. I don't care when they took it over, how they took it over. I'm telling you right now, once it's a done deal, you're going to have to police it. Or the residents are going to have to police it. And you definitely don't want me policing it. Okay? Because you remember the after fact of all this. With everything that you decide here, we run into the same problem with ZBA. There may be fallout to all this that might come into our realm. Okay? We need to know the language. Vinny helps with writing the text. I had to really sit down and think about that. We have the town attorney helping the petitioner write the language. So how did the residents come out of this? Where's the protection for the residents? Tell me where the protection is. And if I'm passionate about this, I want you to understand that my moral compass, everything I did, was for the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding community. I'm going to share with you a gentleman that I considered my mentor. He was a building inspector in Woodbridge, Connecticut. And he was quite a character. He wore a brimmed hat and a pipe. And I always said to him, how do you know so much about zoning? I mean, he just blew me away. He would tell me things, and I had the eager to learn because I wanted to do what you do. I don't want to do what you do. But I got to tell you, I aspired to doing what you do. And then I'll tell you, you're doing a great job.
Appreciate that.
And all you're doing a great job. Look, this is a thankless job, what you have here. What we do for the ZBA is a thankless job. We have more targets on our back from people saying that we didn't do the right thing. And you got a target on your back here tonight. And I'm here to say to you, I respect you for what you do, and I respect the decision you make. But make a respectable and make a moral decision. And I'll go into that further. So speaking with this gentleman, I said to him, how do you base it? He goes, I always looked at it in the aspect of what is the good for the community? And now they didn't have as much commercial as we do, but they had it. But he had a sense of direction. And he says, you always have to have a moral compass. I had to reflect on that, moral compass, wow. So I said, okay, I'll bring it with me, and I'll look at it this way here, the same way. Everything, if you go back in the minutes of everything I do, has a moral compass. How does it affect the community? How does it affect the town? So this way here, you know at the end of the day, you did the right thing. You need to do the right thing. So I'm going to suggest a few things, which already the young lady from New Jersey, I'm sorry I didn't remember your name, but she already said that they were going to have only a right turn only. I'm suggesting a left turn only to the Boston Post Road. Okay? The other thing I would suggest, just give me a second. And I got to come back to something else. The other thing I would suggest that installation of stop signs indicating no through traffic, i.e. residents only. Number 3, installation of 3 speed bumps to reduce or eliminate speed up and down Lindy Street, because that's going to happen. They come out of there, they may want to go smoke a joint, and I guarantee you, because we have it now, that people race up and down that street. Okay, so I would suggest one before you hit the signs on going on Lindy Street, one at the juncture before Founders Way, and one mid-span between the dead end and the Founders Way. The next, since this is a text amendment, the commission can limit the hours of operation. This is not a liquor store, in my opinion. It may be different in your opinion, and there might be language that says that you can do it in that manner. You need to do the right moral thing here. Moral compass. I'm going to keep reminding you that. This is about the kids. This is not about the money for the town of Orange, because this is $1 million deal. Besides what they're going to get as commissions off the dispensary. Now, they may not be making it on the medical end, but they're definitely going to make it on the social end. They can't tell you anything different. To get involved with something like Attorney Shansky, you got to have the pockets that are deep. And I got to tell you, 14 residents don't. But I'm here as a speaker for the residents, as a resident, but not only that, as a servant to the town of Orange, because I took that oath. I took it for 22 years in West Haven, and I'm over 12 or 14 years here in Orange, when Mitch Goldblatt was the selectman. Okay? We're dealing with somebody that, I got to tell you, I wish Attorney Shansky was my mentor, because she is that good. I would aspire to be like someone like that. But you have a decision to make here. So the hours of operation, if this thing is a done deal, as I was told, a done deal, this is a done deal. This is what I suggest for the hours. If I can find it. All right. Monday through Friday, I think it's reasonable to do business from 9 a.m. to 4:30. I think it's reasonable. I think on Saturdays, like a bank, 9 to 12. Why not? What's the problem with that? If you can't do it during the week, you know, you got those hours to go. If you needed to cash a check, you'd be able to get to the bank before 12, right? The last thing, we forgot about one thing about Sundays. We forgot about the blue laws. Remember the blue laws? Anybody remember the blue laws out there? What happened? What happened to the moral compass? What happened to all this? What happened to our officials? Did they forget what we're here for? What they were elected to do? Did they forget all about that? Did they forget about the community who put them in there in the first place? I was told it's not about the money. Oh, I beg to differ. It is about the money. We made some bad decisions. When I was asked to run for planning and zoning, because you have to run for that position, God bless you guys, how you do that. I don't know if I could do that. I don't think I have the temperament for it. But anyway, when I was asked, and they turned around, they brought me down, and the police chief at that time, can't remember his name, O'Brien, something like that there. But in any event, he turned around and asked me what I thought about Stu Leonard's. And I guess that was the hinging point, Stu Leonard's. I said to him, from a builder standpoint, from a tax standpoint, I think it's a great deal. And he said, what do you mean? You're going to generate $687,000 of taxes, besides with everything that they were bringing in there to it. And it wasn't a good fit. But yet we bring a dispensary in. It's a great fit. It meets the criteria. Big deal. Meets the criteria. It's standalone. The reason why they need standalone, because they had so much problems over in Milford. There was a podiatrist there that he sent a letter to Jim Zioli, basically saying they had to move out because there were days that his patrons could not find a parking spot. There were other days that his staff couldn't find a parking spot. Besides the number of break-ins that he had, they finally moved out. That's what they have. That's what you're bringing in. That's what you're going to need to police. Figure it out how we're going to do this. Have the game plan. Hold them to the task of how this thing is going to be handled. Because you can say anything you want up here. At the end of the day, once you give them the authority to do whatever they have to do, they're going to do what they have to do. And the response time, 24 hours, I can tell you right now, it's not immediate. I don't care what manager you have there. It's going to fall on the hands of the residents. We are budding. We're right there. Think about that. We're right there. I understand that this may come through, but do the right moral thing. Limit the hours. Protect the children. I'm not up here about me. I can leave tomorrow. I have no kids here any longer. I can leave tomorrow, but they can't. They're all in the school system. Think about that. If you all have kids here, think about that for a second. Think about them for a second. Think about them. Because you want to treat this as a liquor license? Wow. The hours they're talking about, holy smokes. What are these kids going to do on the street? It's over with. They won't be able to do any of that. So whatever they say, that's great. I've been at plenty of planning and zoning meetings. I've been at plenty of inland and wetland meetings. And I got to tell you, they'll promise you the world to get what they need to get. On this plan, this minimal plan that you received, there's no information on it as far as how you're going to deal with the inland wetlands. You did the winery. You had to come up with a whole plan of how they were going to handle it. They had an engineer coming in there to tell them how it's going to explain. They had a photometric plan. You say, well, they're not really doing anything. They're ripping some stuff down. You put a shovel in the ground. You got to put all this stuff on there. As far as the signage, you're right. That is another permit. But you still have to show it. Maybe a separate permit, you still have to show it. I've gone to plenty of cities, plenty of towns. We do it all the time. By the way, with the same engineer. So, I'm not going to bore you with any more details because I can't stand any longer. We hope that you respectfully, if you go in favor of this, respect the residents. Respect them with proper hours. Limit the number of hours and hold them to the task what they're going to do. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Panza. I just want to address one thing that you said, and you said it more than once, that you heard this was a done deal. And I have to say, that shows a little bit of disrespect for the 5 commissioners.
Not you. I'm not talking about...
And I don't believe you're speaking that anyone at this table.
I am
in
not
Ozzy.
speaking about your table. I'm talking about what I heard from people over here of power. People of power. People I know well. People I thought were friends. If you turn around, Judy, and you lived at the end of the street, and this deal was on the table, you can rest assured my moral compass would have talked to you. I don't mean to point at you, by the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, Brian McGrew, Ridge Road.
Sorry, what's your last name?
McGrew, M-C-G-R-E-W. I live nowhere near the proposed site, but I do have a lot of concerns because it's a terrible idea, and I can't believe it's gotten this far. The whole area of the Post Road east of Racebrook is looking more and more like a low-rent district. And this will be the coup de grace. As a former realtor, this will certainly affect potential buyers and their opinion of Orange. This really shreds Orange's image. This is not a good fit in Orange. Nice towns don't have dispensaries. If you look at the nice towns in Connecticut, whether they're on the shoreline or in Upper Fairfield County or Lower Fairfield County or Litchfield, they would never allow a dispensary. I can't believe that we're at this part or at this point that we're even talking about this, especially with a Republican majority on the board. I mean, that's why we don't have the turnout here, is because, and nobody reads the local papers anymore, and nobody watches OGAT because everyone's streaming. Nobody subscribes to cable anymore, so people didn't even know about this. And, you know, the townspeople had a real faith in the Republican majority on this board to be the vanguard, and you really let them down with this. This should not even be this far. This is so misguided. It's insane. I mean, just an easy slam dunk binary decision of what we stand for as Orange residents is really kind of in jeopardy with this whole thing. I mean, the optics and the image of a I won't even call it a CBD dispensary because it's not. I mean, the whole name is a misnomer about health and wellness. That's not true. I mean, this is for recreational escapism, and that's all it is. It's drug culture. I mean, they can sugarcoat it all they want, but that's what it is. You know, I think that, you know, more and more it's clear that, you know, that Bo Clark was really the brains behind this operation. And now that he's gone, the committee is really suffering. And I really had no idea. I thought that, you know, that things were going to go well. But, you know, it's an empty chair in more ways than one at the top, at the head here. You know, I mean, we just cannot continue to prostitute the town for retail. This is not a sustainable way to move forward in the future. We need health care, corporate office parks, light industry, things that have taxable chattel, personal property. That's the way to get tax revenue, not something that needs a heavy police presence. They're talking over and over about security. The reason why they're talking about security is because of incidents. They could say, oh, no, we didn't have incidents. You know, there was nobody that went to jail and so forth. That's not including people that have pled down and other ways of circumventing justice, really. With regard to town council, I would like to go on record as saying that Town Attorney Vincent Marino should be recused from this application because of his implication with the wording and the drafting of this application. I think that needs to be memorialized at this point. I just want to know how long it's going to be before there's checks cashed and errands and rental centers and abortuaries. What else are we going to put down there east of Racebrook Road? It's becoming stigmatized. And when you live in a town without special designated areas, it's not like Lordship and Stratford or Devon and Milford. It's Orange as a whole. So when you have a bad area, it's affecting all Orange residents because we never segmented the neighborhoods up. So this does affect everybody. And the reason why more people aren't here is because they simply didn't know that this was going on. There was a certain element of clandestine activity here. And this kind of stuff doesn't get circulated anymore. The seniors are afraid of COVID because of the media exaggeration of it. So they're paranoid, so they don't come. And other people didn't even know that this was going on, but mainly because they put their faith in old familiar names that ultimately led them down. And it's imperative that you do not let these people down, because especially the 3 Republicans on the board, People will remember this for a long time. And you don't want that type of memory attached to you. You know, we're all Orange residents. We're supposed to be different. We're supposed to have some sort of common fabric, you know, some sort of bonding that we all have, and we all understand certain things, like, oh, we don't want to do this because we want a certain image. We don't want to be like Milford. We don't want to be like Derby. We want to be our own. We are killing what has made Orange so appealing. Why would we do that? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's a reason why they want to come here, obviously. It's mainly because of strong markets to the east of them. And that is going to be a thoroughfare on the Post Road, becomes Orange Avenue in West Haven, all the way to the Hill section in New Haven, and easy access off of 95. Obviously, New Haven Avenue was too complicated for their clientele to navigate towards. I mean, because it's not on the Post Road. It's, you know, it involves zigging and zagging and turns and so forth. So they want a straightaway. This is going to be a regional attracting entity. People from probably a half an hour, 45-minute radius are going to come to this. You know, very little of their product line is CBD. It's mostly recreational marijuana. You can look on their website, you know, if you doubt that. But I just think that this whole thing, I'm lamenting the fact that I'm even here, that it's gotten this far, that we're having this discussion. I just think it's just so ridiculous that the Vanguard allowed it to go this far. And I just think that you all should be ashamed, you know, especially the empty chair, you know? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, my name is James Glaser. I live at 332 Lindy Street, which is the first house on the left-hand side as you come down Lindy from Boston Post Road. My wife and I moved here 17 years ago to start a family. We chose Orange because after researching and looking at the surrounding areas, Orange seems to have the same moral beliefs that we believed it to be the safe area to raise a family. The town on the surface seems to show a willingness to protect their residents and have a moral code to protect from outside influences. As we become more involved in the town, athletics, and our children started school, this became more apparent that it was a farm town that was desirable area to raise a family. In the last few years, I've noticed that the town has lost a sense of moral beliefs that brought us to the town in the first place. Our elected officials have started to make decisions that are not in the best interest of the community. The town continues to be influenced, which brings me why I'm here. Our elected officials have chosen zoning laws to approve a cannabis dispensary at the end of the neighborhood that has 17 school-age children. These are the people that are supposed to protect us, not put us in danger. If you've ever had a chance to enter Lindy Street and Founders Way neighborhood, you would have seen have to dodge hockey nets where the children congregate and ride their bikes, scooters, and rollerblades that are consistent filling the neighborhood. My son goes up to the Racebrook Plaza or Hitchcock Plaza. He loves to go to Wayback. He's not going to be able to do that anymore because of this facility. I asked the board to explain to my children and every children on the block here what you guys are doing here. That they can't go down the street anymore because that facility is going down there. You might think I'm a little enraged or I'm just a crazy neighborhood, but all these people here bought houses in Orange for you guys to protect them, and they're not getting protected. We spent years teaching our kids that drugs are no good. Back when I was a kid, drugs are no good. You can't have them. Here we're putting it in right down the street from kids. She says, oh, they won't open when the kids go to the bus stop. What happens when they get dropped off at 3:45? What are we doing then? Oh, we'll just move the bus stop. That's not the case. You know that the high school and middle school children neighborhood get off the bus at the end of Lindy. Where's the dispensary going to be located? I asked the board to put their parenting hats on and look in the mirror and asked them what they would do if this was presented in their neighborhood. What type of message are you sending to the kids? This is against every moral code of the neighborhood and community. Before you make a vote tonight, please think of the future of Orange and the people that you are elected to protect and have a moral obligation to. Please take the time to think about this effect that this will have on the neighborhood and community and the children and our future leaders. Guys, I live in the first house, and you're putting this down the street from my house that I spent hard-earned money to live in? And now you guys just want to change the law, we'll change this, we'll change that. Wonder if it was down the street from you. Look in the mirror. I know you guys are looking at me all blank faces. You're probably thinking, oh, we're just going to vote anyway. But you know what? Think of these kids in the thing. Please. Think of all the kids in the audience. Wasn't told about it. No one ever said anything about it. I have to hear it from the Orange newspaper that they're going to put a dispensary. It's all approved. Yeah, I don't have a great lawyer. I don't have anything. But you know what? I do have my moral code, and you should too. Thank you.
Okay, next speaker to the podium, please.
Hi, my name is Leah Katz, and I live on Founders. I believe I am one of, if not the oldest kid in the plaza, or in the neighborhood, and plenty of the parents trust me to watch their kids. I'm friends with a bunch of the kids, and I feel that it is my responsibility to kind of sort of speak from my heart and tell you guys how I'm feeling, because I believe no matter what anybody says, it's always worth it to say your opinion, and you have a voice, so you should use it. I just kind of want to say that we may be a small neighborhood, but we are a really special neighborhood. I've lived there since I was, I think, 2 years old. And as early as I can remember, playing with my friends, walking to the plaza, walking from Founders to Lindy to hang out, and getting off the bus stop and coming home. And that's just something that every kid has. That just should be something fun and safe. And I can honestly say, I don't think our neighborhood will be the same. I don't think we're going to have that fun atmosphere. I know on the weekends, after school, there's always kids playing in the neighborhood, having fun, and that's something that's special, that all the kids can just come outside and play a friendly game and just have fun. It's part of being a kid, part of something everybody should have. And it's really special because so many kids just stay at home and play video games. But no, our neighborhood, we come out and we play with each other. We babysit, we dog walk, we let our neighbors borrow things. We are a special neighborhood, a neighborhood that I will cherish. I can only hope when I'm older and I have to buy a house that I can have the neighborhood and the neighbors that I've grown up with. And I think I speak for all of the kids here that I have watched grown up, I've become friends with. Please let us keep our special neighborhood. Please let us, get to keep having those fun memories outside. I can honestly say that it's simple as just being able to throw a ball around outside, something that I don't think the kids would feel safe doing, knowing that's in front of our house. I know whatever decision's going to be made is going to be made. I just please ask that you hear me and the rest of the kids. Let us keep our safe neighborhood, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Next speaker.
Thanks, Leah. I'm Isabella Curpios. I am a resident at 348 Lindy Street. Isabella Curpios, Izabella. Sorry, weird spelling. Thanks to my parents. Curpios, Kurpios. I am the second oldest of our little neighborhood, and I'd like to say that I'm also an employee at Jesse's Toys, just in that same plaza, Hitchcock Plaza, where lots of kids also come to. Plenty of our kids in the neighborhood also like to walk to Jesse's Toys, visit me at on the Sundays that I work. As a resident as well in the area, and being able to walk to my place of employment with safety also is extremely important to me. And I don't feel like I have to drive there every single day, but obviously with the people that come to this establishment that you would like to place, it comes with its dangers. It comes with its people that will obviously abuse that substance, of which I've always been taught not to use. In school, I am also part of multiple clubs and programs where we teach students how to cope with stress and cope with other things in ways to not abuse substances. And I personally don't believe that that's the right way to go, but there are other opinions and other things. I would just like to say that I would really love to see the kids, just like Leah said, be able to walk and meet me at Jesse's Toys and to be free and feel safe in our area. Whenever I have a friend ask me where I live, I say Lindy Street, right between Jake's Wayback Burgers and the old TD Bank. And they're like, wait, really? There's a residency down there? There's a street? And I'm like, actually, yes, I know. Easily forgotten, easily maybe not noticed. But we're here, all here. And I would just really like for you to make sure that you remember us. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. Are there any, okay. Name and address for the record, please.
Gabriella, 1L. Curpios, Kurpios. I'm sorry I didn't prepare anything because I didn't actually expect to speak today, but my daughter was brave enough to stand up and speak. So I figured I'll just say a couple of words. This is a new phase of drug dealing. Just look at it that way. Not too long ago, that was drug dealing. Okay, if you were selling weed, if you were selling pot, you were a drug dealer. So just because it was approved and legalized doesn't mean that you all have to forget that it's a drug dealing. And we just hope that this drug dealing is not going to happen in Orange, especially at the end of our street. Like everyone said, our children play there. They go and get milkshakes from Wayback Burger. Our children get off the bus right between the plaza, right between Hitchcock Plaza and TD Bank. The bus stops right there. You're saying, we'll just move the bus because obviously it won't be safe. If you make the decision to move the bus, then you've obviously made a decision that it's not safe to keep the bus there. So then is it safe? Like 100 feet, literally steps from the very first closest neighbor who has 3 children that play in the street and play hockey, which where everybody joins in. If it's not safe to keep the bus right there where you take a turn right out of the plaza and take a left, that's where the bus stops. If the bus is not safe to stop there, then is it really safe to stop few steps up? Think about it, guys, please. This is our neighborhood, and we've been teaching our kids that drugs are bad, that if you're stressed, go exercise. If you're adults, you're stressed, go do yoga. Don't turn to weed. Let's call it for what it is. It's drugs. Not too long ago, people were incarcerated, people were jailed for this. But just because the top guys in the government legalize it for their own purpose, for whatever that purpose is, because I didn't study it, okay, doesn't mean that you guys should approve it in our little town, especially in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Diane Abatello, 236 Wilson Road. And I can, Abbattiello. I actually just stopped in. I had no idea where this dispensary was going. I live off of Orange Center Road, so a little bit of a distance. But I'm flabbergasted to hear where it's going and disgusted that the town could possibly allow this in such a residential area. Two questions I have for the woman who was speaking before, I think from New Jersey. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. What is your closest dispensary to Orange? Where would be the next one, and what towns do you expect to draw from? What towns will be coming into Orange?
She has to wait until she
when
comes
we're-
back up here.
She can't.
Oh, okay,
Right.
okay. And I also wanted to say, Orange has a certain image. I've been in the town for 40 years, and I have noticed a great uptick in the police cars going up and down the Boston Post Road. We know that CVS was broken into. I was told that people went in there, they put a chain around the ATM, tried to drag the ATM out. This is just, and I live close enough to the Boston Post Road to hear the police cars going back and forth, back and forth. We've had many burglaries. We've had voyeurism now. We've had shoplifting from Home Depot constantly, ShopRite constantly. And these people, are they getting arrested? Are they getting out of jail? Are they, paying any consequence? You can't really tell me that you're expecting no trouble with the dispensary. And again, coming from all areas, we have no control. And to think that the town of Orange could possibly allow this, from 40 years ago, this was a town, a community town. People came in because of the school systems, because it was a safe town. People cared about one another. But to actually allow this, I'm flabbergasted that your committee has allowed this, if it is a done deal. So I certainly hope not. And thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tiffany Katz, 19 Founders Way. First off, I just want to I don't know exactly why the meeting got canceled 2 weeks ago, but I did send a letter and I spoke with you regarding the fact that it was a Jewish holiday. So if that meant anything and that's why it happened, I thank you all for taking that into consideration so that my family itself had an opportunity, as well as other neighbors who were busy practicing their religion. So thank you if that is the case. If not, then, oh, well, you got lucky, can I say. As far as why we are here tonight, my one question is, thinking of the spot, if there is a line for your drive-through, is that line going to be on the Boston Post Road, or will it go all the way down Lindy Street while people are waiting to go through the drive-through? If, let's say, it backs up, they say there's 5 or 6 of them, let's say there's 10, 15 people, the 6th car is at the entrance. Is it going to be at the entrance to the Post Road, so we have a backup down the Post Road, or is it going to go on to Lindy Street, so they back up down Lindy Street?
It would be towards the Post Road. Again, they can't answer any questions until they
No,
come
I know
back
that,
up on the
I
side.
understand.
Yeah,
But
it would be
I want
towards
to
the
know
Post Road.
how that's getting monitored, because it's going to be a lot easier for traffic patterns, obviously, if it's down the dead-end street than if it's in the middle of the Boston Post Road, which is a busy road and a light and lots of things going on. The other thing I'd ask you to think about and consider is, if this is going to happen, if we could please, besides altering the bus stop, that's obviously a given, put a light on Lindy Street to the Boston Post Road. Because right now, it's hard enough to turn off Lindy Street onto the Boston Post Road. Many of us do go through the plaza to go to the light to make that turn. We don't want all these people going through the plaza. I'm sure the plaza doesn't want all these people, you know, Hitchcock Plaza, going through Hitchcock Plaza to make their turns. It's already hard enough to make that turn, that if you're going to do that, you really have to put a light there for the sake of the drivers. You know, my child spoke, she's almost 18, she's driving a car. She always has to go into the Hitchcock Plaza, family rule. She's not taking a turn onto the Boston Post Road from there with all the traffic. And, you know, there are lots of kind people that stop in this lane, but not in this lane, and it's already an accident waiting to happen over there. It actually was a school bus accident many years ago, right there at that intersection when the school bus picked up the kids and was going to try and make that left turn out of Lindy Street onto the Boston Post Road. There already was an accident. So if you're going to do it, at least just put a light there to protect with all the extra vehicles on the street. And I don't know, I know that you guys spoke to the fact that you have security that is there all the time and does all the security policing or whatever you want to call it. I'll tell you already, we constantly have, especially along the line of the back of the Hitchcock Plaza and along the line going right up Lindy Street, tons of trash every weekend. Kids are drinking beers and throwing them, and there's all kinds of stuff that goes on there. You know, it's kind of tucked back in a corner. I get it. Teens are teens. I have one. They do what they do. But if you don't think that's going to get worse because there's just more cars and more people and people throwing things out windows, we need more police from Orange to be patrolling that area more frequently, not just relying on their cameras and their person who maybe they'll call the general manager. But just out of curiosity, I know you can't answer me, but is your general manager in the town of Orange, or is he, you know, in, I don't know, Fairfield County, New Haven, or Chicago, and it's going to get there as soon as possible? Because if I'm waiting for him to come from Chicago, obviously we have a problem. So how close to the town are you mandating that these people who are responsible to come running and solve problems, how far away are they? Because, you know, Connecticut traffic, I don't think there's anyone in this room who could tell you Connecticut traffic, the Merritt 95, I don't care what you take. It could take hours to get anywhere in this state. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thanks.
I'm Sheila Panza, and I live at 357 Lindy Street. It was quite shocking to see the extensive security in the building, and it made me wonder more about the clientele when the staff has to be specially trained in dealing with various situations and all their controls. And it's wonderful that you have an investment in keeping your employees safe and your security for your operations. And naturally, it makes me wonder, what kind of security do we have for our neighbors and our residents? It wasn't too long ago that a number of residents had their catalytic converter stolen out of their car. We've heard from the podiatrist that used to be a neighbor of the dispensary and the issues of loitering and the problems that caused. Yes, this is a standalone business, and it sounded like, oh, therefore this is a really good fit because it's not in a plaza. It's a standalone business next to a viable residential neighborhood. If you decide that we must have a dispensary or the retail store for this, there are other standalone properties that are abutted by commercial enterprises that aren't next to residents. They don't have adjoining side streets. As far as this being considered a liquor store because we're giving residential beyond the medical use of marijuana, recreational, that's the word I was looking for, recreational marijuana, and that it's being treated like alcohol and therefore granted liquor store hours. I disagree with that. We're in uncharted territory here. If it's a bank, grant them bank hours. I think that we don't know what we're getting ourselves into. Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing Center sounded like it was going to be the marijuana spa boutique. And it could be something very different. Even if that's their intention, what they end up with, they'll be catering to their clientele, whoever that will be. And that's an unknown. So it could turn out that Orange has the leading head shop, which I don't think that's really the vision that any of us have for our town. So I would urge you to use great caution, a preponderance of caution, while you're weighing out your decision. And it's my decision that this not be at the corner of Lindy and the Boston Post Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other speakers to address the commission? Yes.
If you want, I know a lot of people spoke to me, but if you want, I can still read these in.
My name is Jesse Parks. I'm a resident at 12 Founders Way, adjacent to the proposed dispensary. And I'm going to share with you a letter I forwarded to Mr. Zioli regarding this situation. I'm contacting you at this time to express my opposition to the proposed Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing LLC marijuana dispensary at 175 Boston Post Road, Orange. As a member of this community and a parent of 3 school-aged children, I have concerns for my children's safety as well as the safety of our neighborhood, which is just steps away from the proposed location of Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing. My concerns are not unfounded and are based on personal experience with Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing. As a former tenant and operator of a surgery center formerly located at 318 New Haven Avenue in Milford, where Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing is currently located, I have firsthand experience with the patrons of this establishment. The opening of Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing next to our surgery center immediately created excessive traffic at 318 New Haven Avenue, with resultant congestion in our parking area. Many of the patrons of Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing would depart the dispensary, return to their vehicles, and proceed to consume or otherwise utilize their marijuana products in the parking area with other vehicle occupants. In addition to creating an unprofessional atmosphere at the property, we suffered from inadequate parking spaces and resultant congestion. I would anticipate that this problem would be only exacerbated at the proposed location at 175 Boston Post Road, as I'm fairly certain there are few parking locations there than there are currently at 318 New Haven Avenue. We also experienced numerous unauthorized entries to our surgery center. The unfavorable circumstances created by Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing ultimately played a large role in our decision to relocate our surgery center to another part of Milford. Based upon my past experience, I am convinced that our community would be negatively impacted by the presence of a marijuana dispensary at 175 Boston Post Road. As noted previously, this location abuts a residential neighborhood whose bus stop is directly adjacent to the proposed marijuana dispensary. Clearly, this is not the type of business or clientele that Orange families want their children exposed to on a daily basis while getting on and off the bus. In summary, it's my opinion that the risks far outweigh the benefits of this proposal to locate Southern Connecticut Wellness and Healing at 175 Boston Post Road. I urge you to oppose this petition and thereby uphold the values and best interest of our community. And I would really invite the Planning and Zoning Committee members, if they haven't done so, to take an opportunity to spend some time at 318 New Haven Avenue and observe some of the traffic that comes in and out of that location. I think it may change your opinion regarding the type of people that utilize that establishment. And again, I anticipate that if this changes to a recreational situation, it will certainly increase the traffic and the problems that we experienced. Our surgery center was there for about 19 years. We never experienced any problems in terms of our staff, clientele, or patients. Once this opened, immediately we experienced problems. Our front desk staff, they would have FedEx or UPS come to the front desk. They'd go to the back door to open for them. They'd come back to the front desk, and they'd find people wandering around the surgery center saying they're looking for the restroom or something like that. Ultimately, we had to lock our front door at all times, install a buzzer, an alarm system, stuff like that we never experienced before. I'm fairly certain that most people would agree this would not be a favorable circumstance to have in our town, much less near a residential neighborhood where school children are getting on and off a bus on a daily basis. So I urge you to consider these factors when you weigh your decision to move forward with this permit process. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else to address the commission?
I think you probably heard enough.
Would the applicant like to have an opportunity to rebut and answer some of the questions for the residents, please?
Attorney Marjorie Shansky for Green Thumb Industries and Southern Connecticut Wellness. And I have never heard so many ad hominem attacks that were directed at the applicant, at myself, and at this commission in my entire life. I have never heard the issue of morality raised more frequently in an exercise where we are examining a proposal under a regulatory scheme. And I would like very much to try to reframe this issue and reel it back into the subject matter. Not without respect and deference to the commentary that the commission has heard. I'm sure that all of it is sincerely held. But I also think that it is a product of these times that there were improprieties uttered that were offensive to all of us. And I regret that. I want to say that there was no missed referendum, that the statute provides for the adoption by this commission or whoever the zoning authority is in a municipality for the adoption of a regulation, just as this commission did. I want to join the vice chair in the umbrage taken to the done deal commentary. There's not a day in my 35 years of practicing in the land use realm that I haven't represented a client fully and comprehensively and demanded the same of them to demonstrate eligibility for a permit, because one does not know what is going to transpire by the individuals who are occupying the chairs. It's offensive. What we heard among the testimony this evening was a lot of speculation. We heard speculation about 40% of people who do this or that, but there's been no citation, no references given from where such information or any of the information comes from. There's been an ambient sort of degenerate characterization of the people who might come to the establishment, which I think is presumptuous and speculative. The interestingly, mention was made of Mitch Goldblatt, who I don't know if the speaker knows that he was a speaker in favor of the adoption of the text amendment. The discussion about the politics of the commission, wholly inappropriate. All of this has taken place in the sunshine, and all of the appropriate notices were filed. The idea that this is the new face of drug dealing is also hyperbolic, and that people who avail themselves obviously abuse drugs. Those are value judgments that have no place in this conversation. Interestingly, the first speaker who referred to the zoning officer in Woodbridge, that happened to be my companion of 30 years, who passed away right before COVID. And I still find edibles in the freezer and, what do you call it? The things you smoke, and vape. He was on medical marijuana as a result of some back surgery. A totally respectable, obviously respected individual. This is a part of our common health regime now, to have access to cannabis. There is not going to be a queue at the drive-through because, as I think Anne Marie has explained on several occasions, pickups are scheduled, and they are able to calibrate the scheduling. The reason that there is so much security is because these are controlled substances, and they are highly regulated. And so that the responsible operator of 77 establishments in 15 states who has an excellent track record, and on the testimony of Anne Marie, not a proliferation or a concentration of problems or frequent or even any sort of mishaps that cause additional security or police intervention, that would be an operator who would be a desirable operator in the community. So we have this highly regulated, and the idea of litter is speculative and not equivalent to what might go on at the shopping center across the street or the plaza across the street because of the amount of regulation, because of the amount of supervision that goes on at a Green Thumb facility. Security is not for the clientele, not because the clientele are dangerous, not because the clientele are degenerates. The security is because this is a controlled substance, and the Connecticut legislature, in its wisdom, has provided for a litany of security requirements to which the operator must subscribe in order to have an establishment. And Green Thumb, through its experience, has committed to providing the level of security that comports with the legislative requirements as approved by the Traffic Authority and by the Chief of Police. And I would like to say about the Traffic Authority, if it's such a problem getting out of Lindy Street, please contact the Traffic Authority and see if there's a warrant for a traffic light at that intersection. That if that maybe exists now as a need, people can't just put up a traffic light. There has to be a warrant, which is some sort of computation and analysis that gives rise to it. So I want to go back, because we've heard all of this speculation and judgment. And again, I understand what the concerns are, but there's nothing about this facility that is outward facing in a way that's going to alter the lives of the individuals on Lindy and Founders Way. It is an operation contained within the walls of the building that wants to be just absorbed into the neighborhood without calling attention to itself. It's a place people go primarily who know it's there, who are subscribers to the product, and who order it online, come and retrieve it, and leave. I want to go back to my letter and the special use criteria, and simply remind the commission of paragraphs A through H of your special use and how everything about the arrangement of the site, the water supply, the parking, the fire and police protection, the capacity of adjacent and feeder streets. And by the way, to the first speaker, it's a right turn, a no right turn sign, not a right turn only sign. It was a no right turn sign. If you want a left turn only sign as well, that can be arranged, but it was never a right turn only sign. So, and that's the sort of, I appreciate the emotional response. I've responded to applications in my neighborhood on diverse issues from time to time. I understand it, and it has a relevancy for this commission. But it is also overstated and not entirely reflective of what is before the commission. This is an adaptive reuse of an existing building, a site on which, by the way, there are no wetlands signed off by the wetland enforcement officer. The application is complete. We are here to answer any questions that the commission has, but, and Marie, I don't know if you wanted to clarify some points that were raised that fall squarely in your wheelhouse, but I want to say this, that the applicant has established its eligibility for this permit by demonstrating conformity with the regulations, both the, I'm going to call them generic special use standards and the cannabis standards in the new regulation that this commission adopted. And I appreciate that you've heard a lot of testimony this evening, but I assure you that the intention of the operator is to simply be a shopkeeper on the Boston Post Road, like any of the innumerable shopkeepers on the Boston Post Road, and to operate peaceably and peacefully there. Does the commission have any questions? And Marie will come back up, but do you have any questions or find something to have been unanswered?
Could you speak to your demographics and where you feel your clients will come from?
Anne Marie may be better to do that, but thank you if I may. Branford has approved a couple of months ago a hybrid facility in Branford. I read in the Independent that there is a facility in New Haven that's now coming before the land use commissions. So there's going to be access to recreational cannabis before you even get to Orange. So it's not going to draw from far and wide, but Anne Marie can speak to that perhaps more accurately.
I can't help but respond to the amount of kids in this room this evening.
Can you speak louder? We can't hear you.
I can't help but respond to the amount of children in the room this evening. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, reports thousands of deaths per year from alcohol. There has never been a death from marijuana. By placing a regulated facility in your town, our experience tells us that teenage use actually decreases. You have 19 states with adult use legislation in which to look at that. Moreover, you're dealing with a regulated product that is tested by third-party independent labs. So the fentanyl deaths that happened due to laced marijuana in Plymouth last year won't occur. This is not a moral issue. You have 37 states that have approved for medical and 19 for adult use. We saw large, sweeping federal pardons. We are not getting kicked out of Milford. I started my presentation by asking you to look past the fact that, yes, there was a robbery on an acquisition that we made. That robbery happened before our time. That space has too many fellow tenants and not enough parking. We recognize that. and that's why I stand before you this evening. Our Branford and Westport facilities have had no issues. In fact, we have assisted the local police department by providing footage, a commitment that we have made to Chief Gagné as well. We are happy to provide him with footage. That was his request. Currently, they are using U-Haul footage to help solve local crimes. Our security is far more robust. Why is it robust? Because it has to be. You have all stated that we have these crazy security protocols because our clientele must be the worst of the worst. We have chosen to embrace the regulations placed upon us because we don't, frankly, have another choice. We believe in cannabis. We believe in cannabis for well-being. And in order to do that and promote that mission, we have to embrace the security protocols given to us by the Department of Consumer Protection.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Where is your Westport facility? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, sure. I think the address here. I don't know it offhand. I apologize. I don't have it in front of me. It's in a plaza. I want to call it the Grand Plaza. It's a funky one. It's like East. Jack, I see you Googling. Thank you.
I'm hooking up my computer now, getting it back live.
Sorry. I'll move to hours while Jack looks.
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
Keep going.
I appreciate
I'll
you
get it.
looking. The hours as proposed are more than reasonable. I would like to cite the hours of VIP directly across the street, also in C1 zoning, which did not have regulated hours. Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 10 a.m. to midnight. Sunday, 10 to 10. To limit us to bank hours and not allow us to serve patients that would be coming from Milford is difficult. Milford is seen by patients currently largely within a 10-mile radius. We acknowledge that we will lose some of those patients, but we do hope to keep them. BevMax, right by the Starbucks, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 to 5. The Wine Merchants on Racebrook Road, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Sunday, 10 to 6. If you analogize us to a pharmacy, those hours are right in line as well. CVS, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, 9 to 6. Sunday, 10 to 6. We would ask that we not have limited hours, as we feel that the hours that we have proposed are more than reasonable. We have shown conformance with all of these special use criteria requirements, and we seek your careful deliberation on a permitted use regulated and adopted from this commission based upon text that your town attorney wrote at your request.
1460 Post Road, East Westport. I'm sorry, it kept giving me the Milford address.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I have, unless there are other questions. Thank you.
All right, Commission. Yes.
I'd like to address Anne Marie's previous comments.
Name and address again, please.
My name is James Glaser, 332 Lindy Street, Orange, Connecticut. If your clientele is coming from Milford and your store didn't close, why would they be coming to Orange? Why? If it didn't close, why would Milford people be coming to Orange if they have a store in Milford? First off. Secondly, you never addressed any of these kids. All you said, oh, all these kids are in the room. What are you going to do for the kids? What? What are we going to do? Attorney Shansky, I appreciate everything that you've done here. And Anne Marie, you're trying to get something through. We don't want you in our neighborhood, period. And I emphasize what that man said before. It goes against the fabric of Orange, Connecticut. This is a farm town. And it goes against everything that this town, I thought, stand for. You know what? We are hardworking people on this block, and you want to put a standalone cannabis center down the street from us. Cannabis is not the same thing as a sex movie across the street. It's not. Or a liquor store. We don't want a liquor store. I'm fighting for my life here, and I'm looking to you guys to do it for me. I know they keep on going back to their different, you granted the special this, special that. This is my home that I worked hard to buy. Same with everybody else in this neighborhood. And you want to put something that my kids, that I have to go past, and I have to say, if you let this go through, oh yeah, I live by the cannabis store. You gonna pay me for my house when the drops? I know my emotion is trying to get the best of me here, but it's all in your hands. And everybody on this neighborhood. So I urge you, no, I ask and urge that you reconsider what you're planning to do here, because this is the fabric of Orange. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Marjorie Shansky, I hope this is the last word. And I understand the emotion, but it is not linked to any outward activity that is being requested in connection with this permit. It requires identification to get into the building. The product is disposed of from cradle to grave in the building. There is no outward expression from the building that has frosted windows so you can't see in. There's a specter of something bigger than a retail business that has invaded this evening, which I understand, but which in some measure is regrettable because it is distracting from the regulatory regime. And I would ask the Commission, particularly if you have questions under this special permit, before I sit down for the last time. Commissioner Cornell, do you have some questions?
Well, I had questions 2 years ago when the process started. And I had questions when the state legislature, in an exercise of their power, said this is a possibility. Then I had questions a year ago when we put in a moratorium because I didn't think we had understood the unintended consequences of the state legislature's actions. At that time, not a peep from the residents of the town of Orange. Through multiple meetings, through that process. Fast forward 8 months, more meetings, looking over, moving forward from the moratorium to considering a yes/no question. Not a peep from the town of Orange. One letter, 2 letters, any letters, Jack?
I think The only public input we had for the text amendment was from Selectman Goldblatt.
All right, so there we get to today. So there we get to a decision point with just the input that we bring to the table. And without a specific location in mind, although one was said, this is a possibility. And at that point, it was a much more clinical discussion because it's allowed in the state. There doesn't appear to be a public input to it. And, you know, yes, no, is this now just another use to consider? So we had those meetings, those discussions, and it was a split vote. But then we said, I guess we have we're going to allow this as a special permit use in the state, in the town of Orange. So now we're in a place where we're reviewing something that has just specific criteria to meet because it's a permitted use. So, I mean, I personally would like to, reflect both on those criteria and the testimony of the professionals and the applicant, as well as the neighborhood, which is now engaged. And I know that, Ozzy was hoping to be able to be here and vote also. And I don't know if it'd be reasonable or possible to hold it open for 2 weeks.
It absolutely is possible to hold it open.
Or I don't know if any other people or need time to reflect on now that we have all that input.
Listen, you were eloquent in your discussion. I think it was an exact representation of what we went through over the last couple of months, 6 months, 8 months, really, when it started. And I would have no objection to holding it open, especially now that, as you indicated, first of all, Ozzy, not really here. Is he still on the phone?
Sure he is.
But, yeah, I wouldn't mind holding it open, and I do, it's the first time we've been hearing from the public at all.
Right, on this. And again, just so you very eloquently gave the history, the state legislators made this legal.
Absolutely.
The town had 3 options: ignore it, which means it could have gone anywhere, create a moratorium to study it, think about the impacts, or to regulate it, which means it's allowed, but we say where, not where, with some discretion to where and what it's going to look like, and we have the ability to regulate it locally. We opted initially to do a moratorium, which required, I think, we had 2 public hearings. They weren't required, but we had public hearings to have a moratorium. No one attended, which is fine. Then we were getting close to our 1 year. We wanted a year to see how, if it rolled out in other towns, what was the impact. And I think at town council's suggestion, and we had an applicant that sought to end the moratorium and put forth a proposed text amendment. And we had at least 2 public hearings on that.
And when we had those public hearings, we were kind of looking around the table at each other, wondering why there was no public participation. At least I was. And I also think, in spite of the fact that Chief Gagne's already addressed the traffic authority, I don't think it would be a bad idea to have him come to one of our meetings and speak so we can hear what he has to say firsthand.
All right, well, then I think our consensus is, with regard.
Before you do that, and I beg your pardon, I was going to ask, indeed, while Mr. Dandria is here, if there were any other questions about traffic. I don't know how many times you ask the traffic authority to come to this commission for a retail use. in a standalone 4,100 and something square foot building. But the other option, and indeed in deference to having the chair in the room, that another consideration would be to close the public hearing because we've made our presentation and you have heard from the public. The commission having actually only received letters from 2 families.
I believe we have three in writing.
The cats
From
and the park.
Mr. Parks, who spoke tonight, from
Mrs. Parks.
Mrs. Parks, yes, so.
2
and
families.
2 families, and the other was Tiffany Katz, who
Yeah.
spoke tonight as well.
Actually, there were a couple more that went to Mrs. Ziola. I think a lot of people went to Mrs. Ziola with those. So I don't know why theirs were passed along to you and Mrs. Ziola's were not.
And the rest of
All right, yeah, we can't have
sorry, we
public.
can't have,
Sorry. Well, my inclination, it would be to keep the public hearing open. I know we can get Chief Gagne's input even after we close it because he is an official and not staff to us, but, and I had just a concern, how would you feel about a peer review of your traffic study? Sometimes we do that.
Well, we're in an extension period as it is, Jack. Where are we?
Well, now that the public hearing is open, we have the 35 days to make the decision.
Well, but the public hearing, we had to get an extension to get to tonight.
To open the public hearing, now that it's open, we
Oh,
have
I
the
see.
35
We opened it
days. Yeah.
tonight.
It was now open tonight.
I guess the question, Madam Chair, is how would you feel about a peer review? Because it's not our judgment.
Right, no, I think a peer review would be very beneficial. Again, this is a relatively new use for the state. You know, we take your word for it with your traffic study, but sometimes, you know, with certain applications, we ask for a peer review. That would be my hope, that we could get that done in time.
Well, it would have to be done with some expedition because we're underway.
Who arranges for that? I'm sorry. Who arranges for that?
The applicant would.
Okay.
Again, not my decision, your decision.
No, I mean, how does the commission feel?
I asked the traffic expert if he had done these before. I think he indicated that he had done 1 or 2. I don't think it would hurt to have a backup, especially given what you just said, which is that it's a relatively new use. They do have some upstanding facilities right now it shouldn't take, and they have all the information. So hopefully it would be a relatively rapid process.
Oh, Mr. Chair is on the phone and trying to speak.
Oh.
My security person can hear him, but we cannot hear him.
Chris, I think Ozzy's trying to speak, but we can't hear him for some reason.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Ozzy, could we try again? Could you hear us? Yeah, Chris, can you turn that up even more? I think he's coming out of there. We just can't hear him. I think you just have to crank it. I don't know why we can't hear him now.
9:37. He didn't try to text me.
Try again, Oz?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, okay.
I just wanted,
What
I'll
is
just,
it?
I agree with Judy and Paul that we should have the peer review on the traffic. And hopefully it could be done expeditiously. And I don't think we're going to hear anything differently. But I would, since you know, traffic has been raised I've had my concerns about some of the things that were included in the traffic report. I'd like to see it. Just to satisfy myself that we're not talking about, or not anticipating a problem here, but we should be anticipating. So, is that, Jack, do we make those, and again, I think we have the ability to ask for the applicant to pay for the,
That's correct.
so do we engage someone, or how does that work? I'm not sure how we.
I believe typically the applicant would retain a third party, send them over to us. We would agree with the person that they choose, and then they would go from there.
I imagine that can be done before our next meeting, I would think, right?
I don't know if I can answer that exactly. I'm not exactly sure how long something like this would take.
I think that's a good suggestion, that we do that. I also think Tom's suggestion is very good, and we ought to, given all the safety concerns raised, I think a conversation or some input from Chief Gagne would be appropriate.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Chairman?
That's it.
Thank you. I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
In all of my experience, the applicant has never been the party seeking the identity of the independent assessor. I'm happy to talk with you about names of people,
I'm
but
sure the town engineer and I could come up, we actually were having this conversation earlier. I'm sure we could come up with some names, kind of work with the applicant here, and then we could come up with someone and they
because it
retain them.
It does something about the independence of that party if I choose them.
Absolutely, for sure.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
However, Jack, what you might find out when you talk to the third-party engineer is that you may need to limit the scope to just Lindy Street to get into your timeline.
Okay.
And I think that, I don't know how you feel about that, but I think that's the only, really, those are the streets that we care about, right in that, in that
so
area.
Not quite as,
We don't need
as large of a
Smith
radius
Farms
as they
or,
already
right,
have.
Grace
Okay.
Brook, Right.
I mean, for the most part, it's more just a review of the report we have, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
You know, by someone who's trained in traffic engineering.
And who likes to count cars.
And just one last comment, Attorney Shansky. We never really got into the drawings, but one of the conditions of one of the items on that text amendment under the site plan was some kind of lighting plan. We didn't get any photometrics in this package, so.
We'll be happy to get you a photometrics. There are no changes to the existing lighting. It is an approved site. The only change on this site is the removal of 2 drive-through lanes in the canopy, but point taken.
And so what that would what I would interpret that to mean is that some engineering testimony that the existing infrastructure, is going to remain and is functioning in terms of stormwater runoff and as well as the lighting, is adequate for the future,
Yeah, when there's no change to the site, there's no
But
change in the requirement, but I understand what you're
I'm personally unaware
asking.
if the site currently works, ma'am.
Point taken. But when you don't change it, it's not like
Right.
retroactive sort of regulation.
No, but if there's a 3-foot puddle in the back, they might want to get rid of it.
Okay, so we will continue the public hearing till our next meeting.
Do we need to be concerned about any time?
No, with the opening of the public hearing tonight, we have 35 days to come to a decision.
Well, to close the public hearing.
To render a decision.
No.
No, to close the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
And then 65 days to vote.
And then 65 days for that, yep.
Okay.
All right, so we're not in any trouble.
Not today, Mr. Chair. But Madam Chair, could you please say the date of the next meeting out loud so that the public hears it? Or Jack?
So I believe the next meeting is November 1st.
Yes, November 1st.
November 1st is not a date by which you'll be able to get any traffic reporting, I
Okay.
don't guess.
The next one would be, let me look up my
Sorry,
schedule
Anne
here.
Marie, but that's just,
Right, 15th,
15th,
November
yeah.
15th.
well, we could try. We'll try.
course, yeah.
We'll try. Let's try.
And we'll certainly,
try.
yeah, we'll certainly
Okay, November
do our
1st?
best here.
November
1st,
1st.
and then it was the 15th, I believe.
Okay, November 1st. Thank you.
And we will be sure the public is aware, the agendas are public information in filed, but we'll be sure that
As always, yeah.
when this item is on the agenda, it'll either be the November 1st or the 15th, and we will be sure through staff that you are made aware of it.
So thank you. Thank you for your participation, Commissioner Cornell, and all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
We do still have one more. We could
yeah,
do
so I think we should take a brief
5-minute
recess. Let our stenographer. All right, the commission is out of a brief recess, and we'll be hearing our second public hearing. I will ask Commissioner Kaplan to read the public notice, please.
Hi. To appear one time on Wednesday, October 5th, 2022, and one time on Wednesday, October 12th, 2022, the Orange TPZC, Notice of Public Hearing. Notice is hereby given that on Tuesday, October 18, 2022, at 7 p.m. at the Orange Town Hall, 617 Orange Center Road, the Orange Town Plan and Zoning Commission will conduct a public hearing on the following. Application for a special permit and use and site plan application submitted by Solly Engineering LLC for the property known as 88 Marsh Hill Road. Proposed development consists of 8,384 square feet, community travel center with a drive-through facility, a 23,000 square foot electric vehicle showroom with associated parking, landscaping, drainage, and utility improvements. Copy of this notice has been filed with the Orange Town Clerk. Additional information is on file in the Orange Zoning Department, dated in Orange, Connecticut, this 4th day of October, 2022.
Okay, the applicant is ready to start the presentation.
Yes, thank you. For the record, my name is Anthony Capuano. I'm a senior project engineer with Solely Engineering, office located at 501 Main Street in Monroe, Connecticut. We're here on behalf of the applicant, Noble Energy Real Estate Holdings, LLC, for the proposed redevelopment of 88 Marsh Hill Road in Orange, Connecticut. I'm going to go over like a brief overview of the project, go over some of the technical engineering design aspects, and try and answer as many questions as I can while I'm up here. And then after I speak, my colleague Luke Morrow will come up and offer some more information and then answer any questions that I'm not able to. So start with just an overview of the location of the site within the town of Orange. As I said, the site's located at 88 Marsh Hill Road. It's located in the Light Industrial 2 zoning district in the vicinity of United Illuminating, Southern Connecticut Gas, and the, I believe, Homewood Suites Hotel in that area in the southeastern corner of Orange near the border of West Haven. Here's an overview of the site currently. With an aerial. As you can see, the site's located in between Marsh Hill Road and the northbound exit ramp of I-95, right by the hotel and Southern Connecticut Gas. The existing site is currently occupied by National Floral Supply, I believe, which is an existing commercial building with associated impervious areas, existing drainage improvements, concrete pads on which mechanical equipment sits currently. And then here's an overview of our proposed site plan. So, as has been stated before, the the redevelopment proposes a community travel center, which would consist of a gas station with fueling canopies, your traditional retail convenience store aspect of the gas station building, as well as a coffee shop and sandwich shop, which share a common drive-through window, as well as an ice cream stand within the store itself. As I said, there's a fueling canopy located just to the north of the store, which currently has space for 16 total fueling stations. And then just to the north of that, there's an additional canopy which will provide space for 8 rapid charging electric vehicle charging spaces. And under that canopy as well are additional large vehicle spaces, as well as to the north of that area for any larger vans or trucks that might be accessing the site. As I said, the part of the building is a common drive-through for a sandwich shop and coffee shop. There's a total of 12 proposed queuing, or there's capacity for 12 queuing spaces at that drive-through on the gas station building. As well as that building, there's also a electric vehicle showroom and service center. So the way that building would work would be that different manufacturers of electric vehicles would get to showcase their vehicles. People would get to come in, take a look at them. I'm not sure if it has the ability to test drive. I'd have to speak with Luke and the client about that. But you wouldn't actually purchase any vehicles here and drive them off the site. You would do everything kind of offline, off the site. But it also has a service station which you can bring your electric vehicle and service it there. We recently had some comments from the fire marshal to add some additional measures on our site plan to address his concerns. So as you can see, there's additional fire lanes to the south of the electric vehicle showroom, as well as to the north, and then as well as an additional fire lane located to the south of the gas station convenience store. And another comment that we received from him was to add some emergency access ways. So as you can see, there's one emergency access on the north side of our site entrance from Marsh Hill Road, which will be comprised of a permeable paver, as well as another emergency access from the south side of the electrical vehicle showroom to the western side of the gas station convenience store to provide access for any trucks coming around the back of that store, and then an easy way to get back to the front of the site. The site as a whole proposes 96 parking spaces, which is right on the requirement from the zoning regulations. Additionally, when we went to the Wetlands Commission last month, which we received approval for, they had asked for additional measures in terms of snow storage. So we have a dedicated snow storage area along the northern edge of the parking area, as well as some additional measures that included a low-profile guardrail along the wetland pocket on the south of the site to prevent any trucks that are piling snow from putting any snow anywhere near to the wetlands, anywhere in the upland review area, and anywhere that could potentially drain into those wetlands. And that's also been built into part of our general notes on our site plan to ensure that no snow storage is going to happen near those wetlands. And speaking of the wetlands, there is I believe around a 3,000 or so square foot pocket of wetlands located on the south of the site. And at which point, when I get into the grading and drainage plan, that's where the entire site is draining to. So I'll move over to that plan now. So here's a look at our grading and drainage plan, which is designed with a stormwater conveyance system consisting of catch basins with 2-foot sumps and hooded outlets, storm manholes, a water quality unit, underground detention chambers to treat the runoff from the roof, as well as a grass-lined drainage swale to the south of the gas station convenience store building. As I just said before, the entire site drains to that wetland pocket down in the south-central location of the site. And under our proposed conditions, there's 3 separate supporting areas that were studied going to that area. There's the area from the majority of the parking lot, which passes through our stormwater conveyance system, and then eventually a water quality unit located just to the north of the wetland pocket, which was designed to treat the water quality flow going to that area. There's also the underground detention chambers, which are located in the circular parking area in front of the electric vehicle showroom, which were sized to hold the quantity of the runoff coming from the roof of that area, and then a third smaller area to the south of the gas station convenience store, which passes through a grass-lined drainage swale, which eventually passes through the wetlands. And everything was designed in accordance with the 2004 Stormwater Quality Manual, as well as the 2000 CT-DOT drainage manual. And the site was designed with a reduction in peak runoff from all storm events from the 1-year to the 100-year storm. This is a look at our Phase 1 soil erosion sediment control plan. So as I stated before, the site is currently occupied by a commercial building with existing impervious areas, concrete pads, existing stormwater system on site. So this first phase of the soil erosion sediment control plan will consist of the demolition of the existing structure in the existing impervious areas. Measures that will be implemented during this phase include an anti-tracking pad for all traffic coming in off Marsh Hill Road, construction fence along Marsh Hill Road, silt fence around the perimeter of the site with additional hay bale backing provided around the wetland area for additional protection, diversion swales with stone check dams, and then 2 separate sediment traps that will be used during construction to hold any runoff from the disturbed area. And all this was designed in accordance with Connecticut DEP guidelines for soil erosion and sediment control. And then here's a look at our Phase 2 plan, which is during the construction of the proposed gas station and electric vehicle showroom. All of the same measures that I had mentioned before, including silt fence, hay bale backing, anti-tracking pad, as well as additional inlet protection over the new catch basins as they're installed during the construction of the new development. And then here's a look at our utility plan. So the site is currently serviced by public utilities, gas, water, electric, sewer. There'll be 3 transformers total, so there'll be 1 for the showroom, there'll be 1 for the gas station, and then a separate dedicated transformer for the electric vehicle charging stations located to the north of the fueling canopy. There'll be fire and domestic service for each building. And going off the fire and domestic service, we had received some of our comments from the fire marshal in which he asked for additional yard hydrants around the site. So we placed 1 to the southwest corner of the electric vehicle showroom. We have 1 on the north side of the showroom. We're also proposing 1 to the north side of our access way off Marsh Hill Road, tapping off the main within Marsh Hill Road, And then there's another one located in front of the gas station convenience store as well. Sanitary, there's an existing public line in the drive just to the south of the hotel, through which the town of Orange currently maintains an easement for that. So we're proposing a gravity line to the northeast corner of our site, at which point we'll connect into the existing sanitary main with a force main from that point. And then here's a brief look at our landscaping plan. I won't go into too much detail on the landscaping plan, but it was designed with a ratio of around 80% native plants to non-native plants, with design to complement the aesthetic of the site, and with drought-resistant plantings as well. And then a look at our lighting and photometrics plan. All lighting was designed to be LED, dark sky compliant. Won't go into too much detail on that. And then another look at our site plan. And then I'm just going to pass it off to Luke quickly to go over some additional information on the site.
Good evening, members of the commission. For the record, Luke Morrow. I'm a senior project manager with Solely Engineering in Monroe, Connecticut. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Connecticut and also a professional traffic operations engineer. So by no means am I an architect, but I will attempt to guide you through the elevations here quickly. So this is color elevation view of what the proposed convenience store with the drive-through tenants would look like. The beige is a wood hardy plank siding. It's got like a three foot natural stone veneer on the bottom to kind of accentuate, and it's got black architectural shingles on the top. So what we would like to say a little bit higher end finishes for one might conceive for a convenience store. Small signage panels. There are, I believe Anthony covered it. There'll be a convenience store where you can get your soda, coffee, candy bars, lotto tickets, whatever. And then there'll also be 3 tenants located inside. Mike Frisbee, who is the president of Noble, has his own ice cream company called Frisbee's Ice Cream. They're local to Connecticut. I believe they have 5 or 6 locations. So all homemade ice cream. And you can see that on the far right side in the top view. There's also a patio with seating for about, I believe, 40 or 50 patrons and a little fireplace. As well, so moving towards the left where the drive-thru is located, he's trying to lock in a contract with a smaller coffee startup, I believe, called Fuel. I believe they're out of Massachusetts. I'm not 100% certain on that. So, yep.
How many square feet is going, forgetting about Frisbee for a second, no pun intended, how many square feet is the coffee shop or whatever?
The coffee user is, I can probably get you an exact, but I believe it's under 1,000 square feet. You don't have that number on you. I'll get you the exact one. Okay. Yep. And then typically what he would do to share the kitchen with the coffee user would be in Ardeli's. However, there is an Ardeli's one exit up in Milford. So he's looking for a sub shop user, could be an independent operator, something to that effect, but something that would be freshly made subs, not a fast food user. And then just views of the side of the buildings there and as well as the back. So the back is also the hardy plank siding with the stone veneer on the bottom and the architectural shingle. So it is finished on all sides.
What is that colorful?
That's the ice cream mural.
That's the ice cream
mural.
Oh, mural.
So it's adjacent to if you're looking towards the right side of the building. It's an ice cream cone.
Is that a sign, Jack?
It could be considered
the mural. No, it shouldn't be. Maybe there's a little wind. But it's located next to the patio. So there's a little order up window, as you can
see that. Yep. Right here. Yep.
So that's kind of what he's been has been branding. Wouldn't be like a changeable mural. I believe it's just painted on once and it would stay. Just give it a little pizzazz, if you will. And then moving on to quickly, so the typical Noble colors are green, orange, and white. So he's got just his stripe line canopy again, high-end architectural shingles on the top of the canopy. It's not like a metal roof or anything to that. Small siding, signage, just to let you know the brand Noble on the top there. And the pumps also match the color green and orange. Again, this is a similar view. This would be to mimic what the gas station canopy looks like. This is a view of the EV charging canopy. He's, you know, we know we're all moving towards renewable energy, electric vehicles, so he wants to make sure, you know, that users of electric vehicles get a similar experience, so they're protected from the rain, and they get, you know, similar amenities as you would, you know, with the gas station filling. Understood that signage is a separate application, but this would be likely what our signage would look like. So, you know, pricing sign with the Noble at the top, and then the co-brand of the 3 users within the building. So the ice cream, the fuel, and the sandwich shop.
So I was going to say, if we approve it, that's what you're going to charge us.
No comment. All right, and then briefly, floor plan, and I don't think we had the floor plan. If anyone has any questions, we can go through where everything kind of lies in the C-store if needed. Brief overview of the floor plan. So this is level 1 of the EV showroom. The circular area in the front, there'll be a little canopy with some electric vehicle chargers, protection from the rain there. Right now in the state of Connecticut, they cannot directly sell electric vehicles to the consumer. Could change, you know, in the next, so we're looking towards the future. The idea right now would be there would be likely 4 small independent electric vehicle companies. You can go take a look at it, not sure about a test drive, and then if you were interested, I believe you'd order like a factory direct to kind of customize your ride.
That's Yep. That's on the inside, am I looking at?
This would be the semicircular area with the 6 cars there, that's outside the building.
That's
just
the
a
charging
canopy.
stations, right?
Correct, yep. And then, so to the top right is the service center.
Yeah.
Only service for vehicles that are, and it's written in the regs, I believe, you know, no oil changes or anything like that. It's got to be completely electric vehicle, no hybrids or anything like that. So that's the top right half of the building, if you will. And then the showroom over here at the bottom. So there would, and then that showroom would continue to the top. The thought is 2, you know, independent vehicle companies on the bottom, and then 2 on the top to showcase, you know, the type of vehicles they're producing.
So the 6 outside parking, are those for charging? Are those for
Do it for charging, for vehicles charging.
or visiting customers?
Or vehicles, correct.
Anything potentially purchased or looked at is inside?
Would be inside, correct. And you can't purchase directly from this building, correct. Yep.
And there are 5, right? Or am I looking at 6 or 5? It's 5, right, that are outside?
6.
Is 6?
6.
And is this accurate with our?
There's a chance it might.
Okay, so.
Okay. All right, never mind.
We'll revisit the site plan, because I'm not sure the architect completely mimicked what our site design is, but I believe there's 5. So view the second level again, additional showroom space in the top level, which you're looking at on the bottom portion of the screen. And then there's a small roof patio area, about 2,000 square feet for an event. He also is considering you know, seminars and stuff that will teach people about renewable energy, electric vehicles and stuff to that. Maybe Yale or UNH or somebody like that, you know, may want to use from time to time.
What was that last? It's for a conference, you said?
Yeah, he's got a 2,000 square foot patio for what would be considered event space. You know, it wouldn't be large enough to have like a wedding or something to that effect, but maybe a business, or like an educational seminar on electric vehicles or renewable energy or something to that effect is the thought process behind it.
Okay.
Something unique.
I've seen a conference on a gas station before.
Right. Or a wedding.
So here, high-level views of what the electric vehicle showroom would look like. Bear with me on this. I believe the brown is a vertical bamboo facade. The whitish and the grayish areas are metal cladding, and then there's a lot of glass, you know, as well. So you'd be able to see inside to what those vehicles would look like. So the top view would be what you would look at facing into the site. The bottom would be what you would be able to see as you're coming off the off-ramp with the views inside to kind of see where those vehicles would be showcased. No outdoor display of vehicles. Everything would be inside the showroom. Again, just another rendered view. And as you can see, top right there would be that small 2,000 square foot patio space just above, and that's just above the service area.
What are those cladding materials? Luke?
What's that? Metal, correct. Yep. Brown would be vertical bamboo. Let's see, they call out painted steel columns, and then different shades of white, light gray, and darker gray. Kind of a more contemporary building. And these are just some 3D renderings to give you a better perspective of what it would look like. What's that? So just a high level overview of the traffic. So we studied 6 intersections as part of our traffic study. The intersections in red are signalized intersections going from south to north. That's Executive Boulevard, or what you know as the Southern Connecticut Gas Driveway. The second red dot up would be our proposed driveway, which is aligned with the small strip retail across the street. The I-95 exit 41 northbound off-ramp, which intersects with West Campus Road into the Yale West Haven campus. And then the northernmost intersection is the UI driveway, and then the southbound ramps. And then Bob Britton, town engineer, also asked us to look at Salemi Lane, which is the first green dot on the bottom, and then also the private drive to the hotel and the industrial use in the back there. So we took counts in August of 2022, and we balanced the volumes accordingly. Per recent guidance from the state, we're at a point where we're past having to adjust them for COVID volumes. So it's coming back. That's, state guidance, I believe, as of April. They said no adjustments needed. We increased those 22 counts for a 2% growth rate per year into a projected opening of 2024. We also included 2 background developments, which is the Orange Senior Living next to a Christmas Tree Shop. And also, there is a 50,000 square foot manufacturing facility that may or may not be, I don't know if it's real or not, but it was part of a 4-lot subdivision where the VA is located there. So not sure if it's coming or not, but it is also accounted for in the background condition as required by DOT. We did a trip gen for the proposed development based on ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. Latest is the 11th edition of the trip gen manual. Based on the ITE estimates, we would expect about 486 new trips in the morning, and that's about a 50-50 split, so about 260 in, 230 out. In the PM, about 420 new trips, about 205 in and 215 out. And then on a Saturday, midday, call it 12 to 1, about 475 total new trips. That would be about 240 in, 235 out. Distribution-wise, considering it is in proximity to the highway and it is a fueling facility, we do expect the majority of the site-related trips to, come to and from the highway. So about 60% coming from 95 to the north and to the south, with the remaining 40% up and down Marshall Road. So 20% into Orange, and then to Post Road into Milford and West Haven, and then another 20% south into West Haven. Based on our analysis, so we ran an analysis for the existing conditions, the no-build conditions, the build conditions. Our analysis indicates that levels of service in the existing and the no-build conditions are maintained with the proposed traffic volumes in the proposed build condition in 2024. In order to,
They're maintained at what number?
most of our level service C overall. There are some movements at level service D, if you will, mostly left turn movements where there would be some additional delay where you need to wait for the green light. We are recommending traffic signal at the site driveway. The volumes are somewhat significant, in order for users to find a gap to get onto Marsh Hill Road. A traffic signal would be warranted. I know it was mentioned in the previous application. There are warrants in the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD. Basically, they state you need to have so many cars in an 8-hour period sustained throughout the day in order to warrant a traffic signal. We meet those warrants for 14 hours. So there's along Marsh Hill Road and coming out of our driveway, we do meet the warrants for that signal. I'm sure Jack can attest to it, but I've been in front of Police Commission twice, along with some input from Connecticut DOT, considering the proximity of our new proposed traffic signal with the one at the off-ramp and the one at the SCG driveway. They were a little hesitant to approve, so they've asked for DOT guidance. DOT said, we don't have a lot of time to look at this, plus, believe it or not, Marsh Hill Road is not under state jurisdiction. So, yes, it's a fairly large cross-section, not under state jurisdiction. Only the off-ramps are. The rest is under the town. So,
Town?
It's town. So.
But I believe it's a state light, correct?
The both
off-ramps
are state lights. However, Southern Connecticut Gas Driveway is under town jurisdiction.
Does that mean that we, not we, the board, but the town?
Police Commission would have to approve a signal, correct. So, as such, it has been recommended and decided upon at the last Police Commission hearing that an independent third-party peer review would occur.
For the traffic study.
Yes, to ease the concerns of likely you and the Police Commission and the town engineer and the state DOT as well. They did indicate they're fairly certain we can come up with a way to synchronize the lights so that we can get a green progression in order to minimize queues between the lights, because you don't want them to back up, and block side streets or the exit driveway. So we do believe there's a way to do that. However, until we got into, through a planning and zoning approval and then a detailed design with the state, we would be able to get into that, kind of synchronizing that light pattern, but we're just not there yet. So as such, the state recommended the peer review. We are updating our traffic study with some minor comments from the state. We're going to be submitting that to Bob Britton tomorrow, and I'll have a talk with him and see who, I don't know. Jack, I'm not sure if you know if he's picked someone yet.
I don't believe so.
Okay, so, so pending the results of the traffic peer review, our recommendation would be a new traffic light would be installed at the site driveway. And we are confident that they would agree that the proposed trips generated by development should not have a significant adverse impact on the area roadway network.
How many feet would it be then from the exit ramp to that light?
To our driveway?
Yeah,
It's
to your
about
light.
250 and then 250, which seems a little tight. If anyone's been to the Sono collection in Norwalk, I worked on the traffic study and the lights there. Those are in progression about similar separation. The main exit from the mall itself, and then there's the Route 7 off ramp, and then there's North Water Street and Reed Street. So there is ways to coordinate those lights so as to minimize the queuing in between. So you'd be looking at something similar to that.
Yep.
And with that, unless you have anything else, I think we're here for any questions the commission may have.
Okay, and I'm not sure whom to address, so.
Sure,
I'm going to
no problem.
generic address.
Go ahead.
Just one's a housekeeping item. On your site plan, there's a pylon, I would call it a pylon sign, freestanding signage. And that has to be at least 12 feet away from the property line, and you don't dimension it.
Okay.
Okay. Or I didn't see it because I
We don't
can't see.
Okay. We will verify it's 12 feet, and if needed, we will move it further back.
Okay. Second, and I gather because you have a wetlands permit, this was already addressed, but the water treatment device is, very standard for parking fields. You don't need any sort of special oil water separators at a set of gasoline pumps for that first flush?
Couple mechanisms in place. So they have what's called a positive limiting barrier around the concrete pad. It's those little grooves you'll see.
Right.
It's sized to capture so many gallons of spill. Secondly, per our site design, no water flowing from the adjacent drive aisles actually flows over the gasoline pad. It's a high point in the middle, so everything flows outwards. So there's no runoff flowing across the pad that would capture the oil and bring it downstream into a catch basin.
So you have a full canopy going to the stormwater detention system so that you're not flushing the top of the pump area, so to speak?
So, correct, so it's covered. Yep, it's covered with the roof. And then any stormwater flow from, if you could see that hatched, you know, if we have a color, we don't have a colored version of it. But basically, I'm gonna step away for a second.
Secret pointer?
We have,
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no.
we have a high point on the canopy over here. So everything over here flows back into, help me out, Anthony, where's the catch basin? Here we go. Catch basin at a low point over here, and then a catch basin over here, and a catch basin over here. So everything starting from this pad, no water flows from any extents over the pad to take any oil or anything like that off the pad area and then into the detention system. So as Anthony said, we try to use, you know, low impact design techniques and natural features when we can. So we have a water quality swale in the southeast corner, and then we have the mechanical means of separating it with the hydrodynamic separator. There's also two-foot sumps, catch basins with 2-foot sumps, so that'll catch some, you know, grit in degree, and they're all hooded as well. So there'll be a hood on them. It'll stop any, you know, cans or cups or styrofoam, something like that nature, from kind of getting into the pipe network and further downstream.
And then a couple of zoning considerations
Sure.
which are have a little more impact. So this is a special use permit, and so it's governed by the written regulations
Sure.
for that special permit use and the underlying zonage permitted uses, okay? So where within those enabling, you know, regulations that are allowing this use, do you find that you think you are entitled to a drive-through?
Well, I believe per, I don't have a copy of the regs on me, but I believe per.
Would you like one?
Sure.
That's it? Nope. And so while you're looking, because the spoiler alert is it's not there, there's also something that kind of needs to be addressed because we ran into this elsewhere in the town. And this one's probably just more annoying than an actual problem, is that the outdoor dining regulation for the number of seats is limited to 10% of the occupancy inside. So the 40 chairs is going to overrun that calculation. And since this is the first time we're using this text, it's not something we considered, I believe, as a group. So to get, if we want something that is going to be more conducive to your specific use, you might have to try and get some sort of text change that is treating this differently than, and the reasons for, and we need to kind of think it out. No?
Do they have that? No, so they have that flexibility within the confines of the special permit? I mean.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We'd have to get a text change to the special permit reg for this particular type of use.
Or how many outdoor seats could they have based upon the square footage?
I have to check that.
Well, it's no bigger than the winery.
Right. So we're looking.
It's a couple thousand square feet, so if it's 100 people, it's 10 seats. It's not 400 people.
or 40 even.
Yeah.
We have to revisit
No,
the zoning
not a problem.
well, in all honesty, and we were trying to pull a fast one, but we were in concert with Attorney Nuff. We're fairly certain that was one of the criteria that was written into the community travel center use. So it's a little shocking to see that.
And I'm not trying to.
I got you. Accuse me.
I'm not. There was not an accusation.
I got you.
Involved in asking you why you thought you could have one.
Sure.
I have an unfortunate turn of phrase sometimes.
Okay.
So
understood.
If you have the time to maybe circle back and we keep it open. And
We do. We need to because for police commission.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. We will look into that in the outdoor seating.
I think we ought to have them go back and make the revisions tonight, and we'll wait for them.
I was going to order breakfast.
Yeah, we'll just do the breakfast thing.
Unfortunately, I don't have a copy of the text amendment application that was submitted, but I'll have to go back and search our records for that one. Because we were fairly certain that was written in as part of it. But we will see what we have.
Well, since we're going to keep the public hearing open, and you have a little homework.
Sure.
Would we want to entertain closing our meeting for this evening? And then, and then we'll be on the agenda. If you're ready in 2 weeks, we'll come back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
That sounds like a
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay?
Thank you.
$7:05. Can we all please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,